Yeah. Did you get a clown for her?
Two actually.
Two clowns?
Two
You got
different
two clowns?
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Two
Well, you said that
clowns?
was-
That's crazy.
I don't know. Maybe
Who gets two clowns?
I don't know. Maybe that's why you did it. You're like, no one does two clowns. And no one does one clown. So
That would
two
be
is just gonna.
that would be a good story. She would probably hate me for that if I got her clowns. Because nowadays, like, I don't even know what clowns were originally used for. Whenever clowns were like a thing, but nowadays clowns are always associated with like scary movies because
Yeah.
of Stephen King. What's that one movie? It. Because of
Oh,
It,
yeah.
clowns are like horror movie characters. But what
Yeah,
were
that's true.
clowns originally used for?
what, amusement parks?
Yeah. I feel like they had the same function as jesters.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe.
There's probably a whole long lineage there.
Yeah. Let's look into that. I'll look into that. You guys don't have to
Okay.
look into that.
Yeah, because I
Put it
think
on
it's.
one of your lists.
Oh, okay.
I like how you'll forever be able to roast me about
Well, we've seen your lists.
me and my
Yeah.
lists. I know.
No, this is cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone
Data
take that
is
from
good.
you. I think clowns, there were probably just people in history who acted weird and dressed weird, bought big red shoes, and everybody made fun of them. And they were just like, oh, what if I just invented this as a job so that like, it justifies me doing all this stuff, all this weird stuff. That's kind of like, I don't know. What do you guys think of furries? People who dress
Furries?
up in, yeah.
What's a furry?
Oh, you know what a furry is, Logan?
Yeah, like a person who takes pleasure in dressing up like a wolf or something.
Yeah, I think
Right.
any kind of animal. I don't know what it's limited to, but I've seen just different animals. I'm sure at some point that was kind of unusual, and it might still be. But
Like-
now that it has a word, it's a little bit more accepted.
So like
Yeah.
people just dress up in wolf costumes?
Well, they
Or
do that.
Furry.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever is furry, they tend to have like a very high quality costume of that. That's like, it's kind of cartoonish, but it's pretty like detailed, and it's weird. People even like get together and have these huge like conventions, or isn't there like a convention, Andy?
Probably. There's a convention for anything.
What are you asking me for? But okay, yeah, I
Good
think
question.
based on Adam's reason, yeah, I think so. I don't know. I just hear about them a lot, or you'll see like videos.
I gotta
them
see
doing
a
that,
picture
but-
of this. This is okay.
Yeah, I think you would recognize it if you saw it. But anyway, that's what I think
Whoa, you
clowns
guys
were.
are creepy.
Jeez. Okay.
These are worse
Yeah.
than clowns.
Oh, all right. Well, that'd have to be your opinion.
There probably will be, like in the future, like some scary movies that have furries instead of clowns. It's just the next generation of clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be the first ones to to do that.
Oh, you can. Oh,
Yeah, that's a
Count
good
me out of
idea.
I've always wanted to direct a horror movie. I always thought that'd be cool.
yeah. I always thought you could just get a bear costume. I don't know if you can buy bear costumes, but
Oh yeah.
that would be pretty terrifying to see that in real life.
A bear costume?
Yeah, is there anything illegal with just dressing up as a bear and going into like a supermarket?
I don't think so. In fact, I remember it was many years ago, Adam introduced me to a YouTuber who was not originally a YouTuber, but he's like this French prankster, Remy Gaillard or Gallard.
Yes. Remy Gaylord. Oh, I love him.
He does that all the time. He has like probably over 100 animal costumes, and he will act out what that animal does. So like one of the, but he's like incredibly rude, but it's hilarious. Like he would dress up as like a kangaroo, and then he would just go jumping through a restaurant and like acting like a kangaroo and like jumping on the table or like
I've seen him dressed up as a snail crawling on a road holding up like miles of traffic.
yeah, that one was really funny. It looks like harmless, but it really would evoke anger in anybody who's a victim.
Hold on, I'm gonna
And
watch
like one of them was so funny. Like he set up on top of a car wash, dressed up as a bird, like a pigeon, and he had like a huge bucket of like nasty brown goop that looks like excrement, and so the car like finishes the car wash, and right as the car drives out of the car wash, he dumps this bucket on the car, and he's like, he's walking around like a bird, like he just pooped on his car. It was really funny.
I think we're waiting for Adam to watch something.
Oh,
Are we? Adam, are you watching something?
you there, Adam?
Wait, can you hear that?
I can hear you
I couldn't
typing.
hear anything other than your voice.
All right, Adam, you gotta finish that on your own time.
You could hear the video?
No, but you said you're gonna watch it. You announced that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I hear the video too.
How do you hear the video? That's weird.
Yeah, the person just said something about, I don't know.
Nice try
bears.
there, bub.
Let's see, you're trying to figure out something about clowns, so I should have said some kind of clown thing. Are you still on the clown thing?
No, well,
Oh.
that was what the video was.
Oh, okay, so if I would have said clown, it would have freaked you out.
would have got me.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking up, so apparently comedians, that whole thing can be traced back to jesters from like medieval times.
Right.
I think. I don't know if that's completely true, but that's what I'll believe. So that kind of made me respect jesters a little bit more. I didn't really know what a jester was, and I kind of thought they were pointless. But kind of living modern gesturing put it into perspective for me. I like comedians. Comedians are. I wish. I don't know. I wish they don't get as much flack as they get.
Dude, I wish I could do stand-up comedy. I feel like I would enjoy that.
Yeah, you should try it.
Like, cause I can't sing. I was just thinking of what could I do on a stage? And I can't sing. I'm like not a terrible instrumentalist, but that's not like I'm not the best either. I probably can't act. I don't know. I never tried. So I thought, let's see. I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. What else is left? And I was like, comedian. Like you don't need any crazy talent to be a comedian.
Well,
except
yeah, I guess
being fun. Like there is a talent. There is definitely a talent to comedy, and it's actually a unique talent because it's kind of hard to analyze like what makes a good comedian. But I watched a lot of videos. I've watched a couple videos on like how comedy works, and yeah, it's interesting. But I think I'm too analytical to understand comedy.
Oh no, I think you got to just use that in your comedy.
I mean, yeah, every comedian has their own brand, and they're all like genuinely themselves. Not all, but the ones who make it, they do well by being like themselves to the fullest.
That is so true. Yeah, you're so right.
But I think
There's like
a lot.
two things comedians are good at. One, just completely being themselves to the absolute fullest. And then two, they're good at picking apart just daily things
Mhm.
that people go through, like everyday nuances.
Yeah, and I think there's another variable to them that I've thought about like in recent times. Because I do listen to Joe Rogan a bit, and he is like, well, because I think about social hierarchy a lot, and Joe Rogan's kind of like at the high end of the hierarchy of comedians, and he has like a lot of comedians on his podcast often and just chatting and stuff, and I have a feeling that a good comedian is also able to command respect of people around them. I feel like if you're like a pushover, you wouldn't be able to make it as a comedian. Like the kind of person who can rise to the top of a social hierarchy or just be liked by everyone, however that works. I think that's a variable. And that's just something I think about like when I'm around other people, like people tend to laugh at those who are respected. And like, sometimes two people could say the same joke and one of them's like a pushover and one of them's like an alpha or just someone who's like well respected, and the latter would deliver a lot better. I've just noticed that just in my own observation. I don't know if you guys have, but
Right.
I feel like that's a variable in comedy that we're not foreseeing, or like a lot of people would not foresee.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know. Do you ever think about that, Adam?
Variables of comedians or social hierarchy and the effects it plays.
Like social hierarchy?
Yeah, I think about social hierarchy all the time. I think I used to think about social hierarchy a lot like in middle school and high school. And I think the reason for that is because that's kind of the time that people start becoming aware of like how to socialize and kind of come into themselves and find their self-identity. And, it's that age of adolescence where people are growing and becoming more of themselves. And I think it's through that time you start analyzing like how you socialize and how other people socialize and how those two compare to each other, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I find myself like, I don't know, for a few years now, I always pick up on those cues, like, and I always will see, I'll be in a room and I'll see, bless you. Dang, that was so loud on this end. I'll be in a room and I'll see like, just people interacting, and I can't help but picking up on the way that like one person talks to another, and I'm like, oh yeah, that guy must think he's dominant to that guy because otherwise he wouldn't, let him speak to him in that way. And
you probably have a pretty high EQ.
Yeah,
able
interesting.
to discern that EQ, like emotional quotient. I don't know if you've heard of that, as opposed to IQ, which is intelligence quotient. But
yeah.
EQ is a good rating of like how good you are at understanding social situations and empathy and just others in general. And I think, yeah, I have a feeling you have a pretty high EQ.
That's a thought. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's, to me, kind of sometimes I wish I wasn't even thinking about these things because I see them too much, and then I'll get bothered easily by like the way that one person talks to another. I'm like, dang, that guy, I wish he wasn't speaking to him that way. I feel like he wouldn't speak to him that way if he didn't feel that he had something to prove to the other person. People often, their ego drives them and they feel the need to impress people, and I tend to not try to engage in that. I just try to be myself and be like kind, but other people will be like unkind just to try to impress, and that kind of stuff bothers me when I see it. And I can't help but see that like very often, like in most social settings, and yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I think you were pretty keen on picking up on that back in middle school.
You think?
Yeah, 'cause from what I remember, like, I remember you analyzing how certain people acted in middle school a lot, and would make fun of them because of that, like what you were saying of like people acting a certain way just to prove something or come across a certain way, and you were always good at pointing that out. And my first memories of you doing that were from middle school. I think,
Wow.
you must have a high EQ because you are very perceptive in how people socialize. I've noticed.
Dang. Yeah. I didn't really think, but yeah, I guess I kind of did do that in like middle school.
That's where the whole Josh thing came from. Remember that?
Yeah, Josh was kind of like the generic term for someone who's just trying to fit in and trying to just act like everyone else, like everyone that was just a Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may have thought Andy was a Josh at one point, but then I realized, no, this guy's pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Andy is pretty
Oh
cool.
man, dang! I didn't know that. Oh well,
I
the
think
part about
I was almost like Josh prejudice at that time. I just was like, man, everybody's just a Josh these days.
yeah.
I do kind of remember that, yeah. That sentiment.
What do you think, Andy? Have you, do you have many thoughts in this like category throughout your life or day-to-day basis,
Josh's.
or just social hierarchy,
Social hierarchy
like
in general.
Yeah, that's hard for me. I was just thinking about that, and I interact with like the same 5 or 6 people, so I don't really have too much of a sample on like a daily basis. So yeah, not really. Well, I guess
You
with
mean-
like yeah,
I
with
was, I was just saying, like, just like with work or like any situation with any kind of like friends or group, when more than 2 people come together, watching how people like almost organize themselves, just subconsciously. It happens like subconsciously.
Right, yeah. So the only like public times I've noticed that would be like at work. That's what I mean by I only really interact with the same 4 or 5 people. But then I think about like, yeah, our friend circles, our close friend circles, and I don't really notice too much of that in those situations, which I think is a good sign. But I also don't feel like I need to think about it, which is, I think, an even better sign. Is like that's not something I need to spend energy on. So
That, yeah, I like that about you guys too. I feel the same way. Like, I feel like Andy's not trying to like one up me and like
yeah.
appear, like try to show Adam that he's superior to me, or like Adam's not doing that with
That's
Andy,
because I already know Andy is superior to me.
No, don't. Okay. Well, that's not fair. I think you have to. I don't even know. Like, yeah, I don't think you can really compare 2 people, but you just have to like.
Ooh, that's
pick a
truth
category.
right there, Andy. You're preaching truth right there.
I actually got that from my like experiences with computer science. There's usually like an assignment where you ask a question about comparing people, and like because you have to tell a computer how to compare, like a person object, and that's not something it understands. But
Interesting.
yeah.
See, that's why
Okay.
we have you on the show, Andy, because your experience in the field of computer science reveals so much about human behavior. I like it.
Cursed me to think like a machine now.
Yeah.
But Yeah,
with
but I think you really go ahead.
I was gonna say, but with that ability to think like a machine, it allows you to pick apart the nuances of human behavior and just kind
Yeah,
of
it's true.
the nonsensical, illogical nature that every human being contains.
Sure. Yeah, I guess if you accept that machines are somewhat not biased, unbiased, not racist, no discrimination or any of that,
Right.
then if you strive to be like a machine, then you'll be a less discriminatory being.
Hey, that's cool. I like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's so. Anyway, yeah, I think when you compare people, not that I think anybody should, but you have to you could even just pick a category to compare people. Kind of like how you're saying I was superior to you. I would be okay admitting that, but just in certain areas that I've spent a lot more time in my life, um, perfecting or improving in. So yeah, okay, I'll agree with that. With an asterisk next to it. That's what I'm saying.
With the footnote. With a footnote on the bottom.
Give yourself credit, Adam. You gotta give yourself credit.
Thanks, Sandy. No, I do. I think you're so right in how you can't really compare two people. You shouldn't. People do. Like, I feel like it's just natural. Like, it's subconscious. It almost happens on a subconscious level. Like, no one tries to compare people or compare themselves with others, but it just kind of happens just naturally, and people kind of get like a sense of how they compare to others. But like, you're right in the whole, like, you could really only compare people in categories, and like in the category of math and computer science, I think you're better than me. But maybe in the category of like rock climbing, I think we could all, like, everyone on the planet would agree that I'm a better rock climber than you. So it's like, depending on Adam, like what category you're comparing to. Sorry, Logan. What were you gonna say, Logan?
I was just gonna say that Adam is superior to me at rushing music, which is kind of, that's a good advantage.
Rushing music?
Yeah, rushing. Hello, welcome to Around the Bonfire, a podcast which I host along with my friends Adam and Andy, and my name is Logan, and let us get going on this. Thank you for joining us. Warm welcome to you, by the way.
All right, so I guess if you're going to let me pick, the only ones that I have are, well, we've kind of talked about last time, but I put them back just because I wanted to get more closure on them. But at another time, because I don't want to do like two in a row. So then that means we would have to do this last one. And the topic idea is, why do we tip restaurant workers but not anyone else? And in particular, not software developers. I just choose software developers because that's what I do, and that's just to make it a little more personal to me. So I had this idea as I was picking up food from a restaurant this weekend, and on the way home I was like, why did I tip that person? Well, just why did I tip that person? And then it kind of got to like, why are they getting tipped and not anyone else? So I'll kind of just I don't know, I'll just put that on the table. And what do you guys have any answers, or what do you think?
I like how you said, I'll just put that on the table.
Yeah. Just
pun offensively intended.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, what are your tipping habits of you two?
I will tip if it's a sit-down dine-in restaurant, and we have like an actual waiter come up to us and serve us and all that goodness and jazz.
Sure.
If it's like one of those, you walk up to the counter and the screen asks for tips, I usually don't tip because everyone's they're just doing their job. That they didn't do anything except let me buy my food. that I walked up to the counter and order.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's like something like that, I typically won't tip, because there's nothing to tip. Nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's not okay. Well, I'll let you finish.
but yeah,
Or are you finished? Oh, okay.
I guess I could just finish there. I feel like I said enough.
Okay. Well, it's not. I think you have to remember it's not. I think some places call it gratuity charge. You heard of
Oh
that?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just about them doing more than their job. It's you showing gracious or gratuity. But anyway, I don't know if that changes it. What about you, Logan?
So I will admit that it's a weird system that is flawed,
Oh,
and
yeah?
I wish I could get my Uncle Tim in here to do his spiel because I think he's got some thoughts on that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but yeah. So I generally will tip, like pretty what is it, generously. Maybe not that generously. I actually went up to Sedona today and I got lunch and I tipped $5. I like to tip around $5. It's not always a percentage unless it's like a really small thing. Then maybe I'll tip like $2 or $3. But I usually tip like something that will affect that person's day, and that kind of comes from me being a pizza driver for a few years. And I know that with that job, like the tip that somebody gives me, will, like affect change in my day a little bit. It'll help with the final like result, and it's kind of like part of the reason that I did that job. But so I do it for that reason. I feel like a lot of people have tipped me generously, and I kind of have to pay it forward. I'd feel like guilty about not doing the same for them because that has been done for me by like plenty of people over the years. But at the same time, when I was starting up in the pizza delivery job, there were often times, and bear in mind I did like and still do like live with my parents, so I don't have certain expenses, but there were times where I'm like, why do I deserve this? Why do I deserve this and Andy doesn't?
Hey, there you go.
Or whoever else. It was kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, it's going to my advantage, so I'm not going to push back on it right now because I'm in a minimum wage job, and this tipping makes it almost worth twice the value. So so from then is when I kind of decided, well, I'll tip pretty generously as well. So yeah, but I feel like it is kind of flawed because why is it just servers? It's typically a server. Like I'm serving you pizza, or someone at a restaurant is serving you whatever. And then there's hairstylists, cosmetologists.
Oh yeah, I tip those
Yeah.
people too.
Yeah.
Good
I
point.
think a masseuse. You probably tip a masseuse. I don't know.
Oh.
We tipped the ice cream girl the other day. And sometimes it almost just feels it's like based on if you're feeling generous and if you feel like being nice, but it's not a perfect system for sure. So yeah, let's throw it back to you, Andy. What do you think?
What do I think? Oh man, there's a lot in there that I wish I could have branched off and covered, but let's see.
In any direction you can.
Yeah.
Or you can ask me to refrain anything.
Well, I do like how you don't just, because I think it's very easy to be like, oh, I like tips, and if someone takes that away from me, I'm going to be upset. Like you kind of acknowledge the side of not getting tipped and the people who don't get tipped. So that I appreciate. Because I don't know. I get the feeling people who have the ability to get tipped are just like they hold that practice sacred to them, and if you don't buy into that practice, you're someone that I think like people won't even serve you. I heard Postmates, I don't know if this is true, but I heard Postmates, they can see if you don't tip, if you are like someone who doesn't tip very often. So you can choose not to, like, as a driver, you could choose not to pursue those customers. Which makes me think if you never tip and enough people see that, then you'll possibly not get served through Postmates. Like that's a thing that could maybe happen if that's true, but I don't know. That was something I thought about with Postmates, but anyway, yeah, I think it's flawed in like stuff like that. And then there's that whole thing where they'll lower the wages because they know people get tipped, so they kind of account for that in the way that they compensate their workers.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of kind of weird things that come out of it. But maybe that's not what I don't think that all is weird to me. But I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking of it in the principle of why does this person deserve the extra money for doing I don't know, like what do they tell you? How do they like sell tipping? Like what's because no one really declares it officially, but what's kind of the unspoken rule? Is there one?
I want to answer that, but man,
okay.
I wish my uncle was here because he would totally tell you that. I believe, I think it all boils down to corporate greed, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Because, they know that they can get away with having the customers pay the employees the wage that they should be paying them.
All right, yeah.
And it's just like a thing that they're probably just exploiting it. But I think tipping is probably... I would bet that it comes from a long lineage of just, a long tradition in a lot of societies. Just, maybe just American society. I'm not sure. Culture.
I think it's only largely an American thing.
Well, it's largely a Western thing. There's tipping in Europe too. I tried tipping. Really? So when I was in China, I ate at this family's like dumpling cart shop thing. And they were just this really, really, really kind this really old husband and wife that were just selling their dumplings, running this really small like cart business and off the street market, and I would go there to eat lunch very, very often. And so even though my Chinese was not nearly as good to have conversations with them, they sort of got to know me as like that random American kid who just stops by every other day to eat at their place. And so we kind of just grew close, in an unspoken way, like just without being able to communicate each other very effectively. And we'd smile and wave at each other, and we knew who each other was. And so because I got close to these people and I would eat at their tent very, very often, I tipped them a very generous amount of money. And left it, and they would not accept it. And so I like tried hiding it under like my plate, and then I just like ran away so they would like keep it, because I want to be like, sorry, they didn't get the concept that I didn't want change, like I want you to have it. And the old woman just gave me this really sour look, and I was like, too bad, I'm gonna tip you. And then, so I got away with it because I hid the money and then beelined it out of there. But no joke, I kid you not, the next time I went, the old lady comes up to me, and the exact bill that I had left, she's like, shoves it back in my pocket. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, so tipping is not a thing in China, apparently. And that's how I learned that. So it's primarily a Western thing. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if it's, in other countries as well that are non-Western, just because of how much just the Earth has globally westernized in general. But I think as a general rule, the concept of tipping, at least, is primarily a Western idea.
Okay. What about the practice of tipping?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is like,
Okay. I think the concept's not new or not.
yeah, I
Because
said
you'll see-
concept. I meant to say practice. You're right.
Okay,
I
yeah.
switched those. Yeah, the
Yeah.
practice of tipping is primarily Western, but the concept is, I would say, more widely known around the globe.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I've only been to California restaurants. Well, mostly California restaurants, so. But okay, that's an interesting story. Well, yeah, I think for them, their way of receiving gratuity was just you going to that restaurant frequently, and I'm sure you had some sort of, you developed some sort of relationship with the employees there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say, can't that be enough? Why can't that? I feel like as an employee, I would rather have like a really deep conversation with a customer and them praising the food or whatever, rather than someone just handing me some amount of money that they calculated and not saying any, you never mention I guess you'll mention good job with the food, but you never will directly mention a tip. It's just kind of, you just
Sliding
have
it
to,
under the table.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
seems a little impersonal.
That's a really interesting thought, Andy. Had to ponder
Yeah.
that for a little bit.
It's almost like the value of the interaction is based on the monetary value rather than intellectual value or what any just the value of the actual human to human conversation or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that you think a relational conversation with someone is more valuable in that setting than just money. That's cool.
Well, it could just be me.
No, I think that's good. I think more people should value others and speaking to others and getting to know others over just money.
Well, you'd have to tell the whole workforce to be like, oh, we're not going to allow tipping. You just have to make connections with the customers now.
Right. It wouldn't be. I agree. It's not something you could enforce, but
I would agree that I think
just that mindset would be cool to have, and I think more people should have that mindset that people are indeed more important than money.
I want to say you should, but I don't work in the food industry, so I don't know. But I do get the feeling that there is some discrimination against people who don't tip. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I think, they were saying there were stereotypes with people who tip and people who don't tip, and they'll avoid serving them, or at least give them less of an experience if they know that.
Yeah,
they can profile that.
That's a strange thing too. Like when I started working in pizza delivery, I always was like, okay, rule number one to self, do not expect tips, but appreciate them when they come because of this weird system. Who knows why it exists, but it exists in my favor. So, well, maybe. I mean, unless my wage was just better, then that would be a better system. But anyway, this seems like a beneficial thing. So, just appreciate it when they come, but don't expect it because why do I even really deserve it? I'm trying it now. And so, but I would notice that coworkers, especially the longer they would be there, would almost seem more entitled to the, the actual tip. And then they would start to be like, man, that guy's a freaking jerk. He never tips.
Whoa.
And in reality and total honesty, that would happen to me sometimes but But I think it's also because someone's a jerk on top of not tipping, so it's like,
Oh, yeah.
dang. It's like, I just remember this. It's funny. It's been probably 5 years, and I still remember the name and the address and the apartment number of this one guy. I could say it right now, but I won't.
Oh,
In
not
Vista,
bad.
who was just
Oh,
a
no.
jerk to me like every single week, and he would always not tip, or he would kind of like be a jerk about tipping, like give you a nickel, be like, yeah, good job, or bringing me my
Oh, wow.
pizza, or like, or give you a nickel, or like one time I was like, dang, I forgot my pen, or like it was in the car. He's like, oh, you're gonna make me get a pen, and he got mad, and like then he was like, keep the pen as a tip. It's like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Some people are just jerks, but they also don't tip, and it's weird though. But yeah, like some people I would notice were not as aware of like this being a weird system, and it was like, yeah, to them the value of the interaction was just the monetary gain. That's it, and they would just dislike people who don't tip. But it's it's understandable because these people, like, they have the job and they got to pay certain things, and this is like the best thing they can do. But in reality, it's flawed because it's never going to be consistent. Not every person who orders is always going to give you $5, and
Yeah.
so it's just part of what you sign up to do, I guess. So I would try to not get like mad like some of my coworkers.
Oh, yeah. Well, just the fact that some people can get mad at something like that. Maybe that's when I think it kind of got out of control. Is that you kind of have like, I don't know. I feel like that's a reason to be upset now, is someone not tipping.
Yeah.
Not a valid reason necessarily, but it's, you can actually go up to someone and complain about it, and they'll be like, oh, that's a thing. That's like, that's a thing in life,
Yeah.
If that makes, I mean, well, yeah, okay. That makes sense. But yeah, I explained that.
I think so.
Yeah, like that's a story. People will stop putting the dishes away and listen to you. Oh, the person didn't tip you? What the heck?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But yeah.
Stop putting the
It's
dishes
just like,
away.
it seems kind of something we don't want to talk about. I mean, I've definitely never talked about tipping with a waiter or waitress. I don't know if I can, and I just usually don't.
If you're willing to be perceived in any particular way, then you can. As in, like,
what do you mean?
What I mean by that is, like, you will be perceived in any number of ways if you, like...
Oh, I see.
Depending on how you go about that conversation. Like, if you say, hey, let me ask you a question. Why the heck do you think you deserve a tip from me?
I see.
Like,
Yeah.
then, you might get onto the wrong foot, or off to the wrong foot.
I mean, even, like, I'm trying... How I kind of took that is, what if you took that same concept, but twisted it around, like, instead of seeming like a jerk, you're like, you started a conversation with your waiter or waitress and asked, like, hey, what would be your ideal tip? Just like out of curiosity to see like what they would respond. And I'm sure a very interesting conversation would ensue after that question.
I would hope so, and I'd love to have a conversation like that.
We should do that.
All right, I'll do it.
You can.
Okay, let's do it, Adam. But you got to be there with me, or one of you's got to be there with me.
Let me take both of y'all out to dinner.
All right, yeah. Well,
one of these days.
Because I don't know. That's probably something that. Well, I guess it could go one of two ways. Where one person would be like, "Oh, this sounds like someone who's not going to tip. They're going to weasel their way out of it." But then the other way would be something where, they're like, "Oh, no one's ever asked me that," and they'll give me a really cool answer to it. So we'll have to find out, I guess. But yeah, I've heard you could sometimes just be upfront and say, "I'm not going to tip." And I guess if you don't want to serve me, then pick someone else. But I think people do that is they'll just say, I don't know what they can really do. I mean, I feel like they'll just, and this is just me being a little bit prejudiced, but I feel like they're just going to not care about you and give you less of an experience because they already know what's the point. But that's assuming a lot. So
I feel like when I was my only experience working in the restaurant business or just food industry in general
that's
was as a coffee shop barista in San Luis Obispo at a coffee shop called Black Horse. Really, really good business, really, really good coffee. So I've heard.
What? You work there?
I don't drink coffee though. That's the
but you make
thing.
it.
I know.
You don't know if you made good coffee or not?
No, I know that I made good coffee because my customers would tell me, "Wow, this is delicious." But I think it's just the brand of coffee in general is like really, really good.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, but I feel like I was never acting a certain way or serving others a certain way in order to get tipped. I was doing it out of just the idea that I wanted to be the best coffee shop barista I could be. Like I wanted to be the warmest, most like loving and fun coffee shop barista in there. Like I made it a point to like talk to my customers and like if I had a chore like taking out the trash or cleaning the windows, I don't know, mopping the floor, whatever. I would try to have a conversation with one of the customers nearest to me as I was doing that chore, or like I don't know, just do anything I could to converse with others and
that's cool.
Yeah, like and none of that time was I thinking I'm gonna try and get a tip out of this. Like I was just doing it because, well, one, I guess that's like part of my personality, but two, because I wanted, like in my heart, I knew I wanted to do the best job that I could and like treat all the customers with as much love and respect as I could. So, and I guarantee you I'm not the only one who treats restaurant industry like that. There's so many great people out there that I've met who, you know, they don't care if you tip them or not. They're gonna owe it to themselves to do the best job at being a waiter, a waitress, or a server, or whatever role you are in the restaurant industry, and to do their best.
I see. Wow. I wish I could. Well, I don't really know too many people who are in the restaurant industry, but yeah, I wish my idea of restaurant employees was just that, you know. But it's when I listening to you say that, it's like, yeah, that's great, but I wish that's kind of like the exception. Would you think your attitude towards your job?
That's hard to speculate on. I don't think I'm an exception. I feel like there's a lot of people who treat kind of their
maybe you're right.
Like,
I don't
as a server. Maybe it's like half and half. I don't know, because some people just, there are those where you could tell their personality. They have warm personalities that were meant for restaurant industry, and then there are those who you could tell like, okay, you were not meant to serve other people or work around like people at a restaurant. And I think even like Americans specifically get pretty demanding with their orders and just being entitled to waiters and waitresses and servers like getting everything perfectly correct the first time around. And I've come across some pretty nasty customers before, and and you have to be willing to put up with that. And like I knew going in, like people who drink coffee on a daily basis, And I don't mean this to be offensive in any way, but people who like survive off of coffee, to me, like that concept is crazy. Like I can't imagine drinking coffee every single day in order to like that's where you get your main source of energy. I don't drink coffee at all. I've never had coffee before in my life. I try to stay away from caffeine. And so I just don't understand adopting coffee into one's daily life. But going into this job, I knew like these customers, they they live off their coffee. Like they need their coffee. And if they're cranky, I'm probably gonna have some interesting and not so happy confrontations. And so I went into this job like knowing like that was a possibility that there might be times where the customers that I serve were not going to be happy. And you need to have a certain type of personality or a certain type of I don't know, just character going into the restaurant industry where you just have to make up your mind every single day that I don't care how others treat me. I'm going to do the best dang job I possibly can and like win over other people, not by being salty back to them, but just by returning love and respect and turning the other cheek and just choosing to be a better person in that moment and continuing to serve them anyway, because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so some people just have that. They're able to adopt that mindset, adopt that mentality, go into work every day at that crummy, lousy restaurant that you work at where it's not the funnest job, but you make the most of it anyway because you have a darn great attitude. And I've met so many good people like that just they know how to serve others, and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And then you have other people where it's like it's not a bad thing necessarily. You could just tell like that's not like working. They should not be working in the restaurant industry just because it's simply just naturally not their cup of tea, or cup of coffee.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a freaking knee slapper.
Oh,
I try. Hey, I'm here every Tuesday.
Wait.
So then,
I'm just kidding. Sorry, I'm being stupid.
Oh, is that rim shot?
I was doing a knee slap with the condenser mic, so you can actually hear it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But well, yeah.
So Adam,
that's kind of my commentary on that. Just some people just have the right personality for restaurant industry, and some people don't. And that's okay. It's up to them, to find their calling. So.
Oh yeah, that's kind of assuming they're going to be responsible and know when they should be in a certain industry or not.
Well, I feel like it's about knowing yourself more, like
sure,
whether or not you feel like you're good at serving other people, loving other people, respecting others, and whether that's like maybe like the restaurant industry wouldn't be a good fit for you. I feel like it's kind of easy to tell like whether you fit in that in like a waiter, waitress, server / whatever role.
Well, let's say you don't. I'm gonna pick on the waiter who, let's just say, I guess maybe it doesn't matter whether they know they should be in the business or not, but someone who they know if they have to work this job because that's how they're going to pay their bills, their rent, whatever. And like, so someone who doesn't tip is a threat to their well-being, to their source of income. And I think if you discriminate based on that, I don't know, that's like not really the customer's problem. That's kind of, I would say that's your fault for expecting that responsibility to be the customer's responsibility. Yeah.
So that's, sorry, I wanted to kind of chime in when you had said, what was it? You had said, that you kind of expected Adam would be in the minority of workers who
Okay.
when Adam defined himself as one who is motivated to just do his best job, not from a monetary gain. And the reason I wanted to chime in is because I have, starting in like 2015, I worked in one Pizza Hut, and then I went to a Texas Roadhouse from there. That was like after like 3 years. I went to a Texas Roadhouse, which is like a huge restaurant, indoor, sit down, nice restaurant. And then I went to another Pizza Hut, and then I went to a Domino's, and I have interacted with a lot of people who are in these places to, well, for whatever their reason is. But the reality is there's a lot of restaurants and a lot of places where being a server is a position. And there's also a lot of people who just need jobs who don't have, like, they might not have a skill that's necessary to, like, make more money. And they're in a really tight spot in their life. By whatever the set of circumstances were, like, they may have not been as privileged, or they may have had a, like, less opportunity in their life. And suddenly they're in these positions where it's like, well, I guess I have to be like a server. And then they're just subject to this really flawed system. And I mean, yeah, you could argue that maybe they could like get their way out of there. But I mean, that goes down a whole nother set of like flaws with things. But so there are definitely a lot of people there that are like, it is not their number one priority to just make their customer happy because they want them to.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's in their heart to like make them feel good and like give them the best experience. Like, their number one priority might be to like make sure that their child is fed like this week, and it's not an ideal circumstance at all. And they might have like, maybe not the greatest desire to like actually be where they are, and they've just found themselves in this position. And so I've definitely noticed a lot of people like that, and when they're talking like behind the scenes, they're talking about, man, that freaking guy stiffed me, that I got stiffed twice in a row by two different people, or man, and it just kind of, I don't know. It all boils down to just there are like greater flaws in this whole thing than we're even touching on. Well,
like
it's just one aspect. It's like one puzzle piece in a large, imperfect situation that we're in right now that I don't even begin to have like the expertise to explain, but there's a lot there.
With are you saying with the whole system that is tipping becoming, I mean, like you were saying, how it's just corporate greed? That's what kind of the. Or are you saying more of the whole situation of people struggling with paying rent, paying bills, and just
that one?
General,
yeah.
Okay.
Just how money works, and I'm not an economist or anything, but like, yeah, I think it's one puzzle piece in that whole flawed thing. And so then me, from my perspective, I definitely see people who are like, I like at the recent one, Domino's, like people in their 40s or 50s who have kids, and they're like, man, this guy stiffed me. Like, they're at a point in life where they still care that somebody stiffed them.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're in that position, you might start to have like that feeling like, man, yeah, I wish that guy got tipped, because I wish he could have an easier time feeding his kid and stuff like that. So there, I have like empathy. I guess I've learned to just have empathy for like all the situations, but at the same time, like me as an individual, what can I do like to survive in this flawed system? Well, my biggest one is just manage my expectations. Do not expect a tip, because I mean they're not always going to come. So like, and that's just how you manage like your emotions too, because you can't control whether you get a tip. So like, why would you expect something that you can't control? And that just leads to, emotional hardship. So
Oh yeah, that's that could be applied to more than just tipping. I think we've covered that in a previous episode too. But I think we've come across it because it's just a pattern, a life pattern.
Yeah.
So that's
so. I've got a friend who would prefer to be go by the name of Thomas, and I'm just wondering what Thomas's input is on like the value of like tipping and so forth.
Okay.
Thomas is with me, but would prefer not to be seen. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, are they gonna? Oh, let's invite Thomas on.
Yeah.
The
So
air.
Thomas, what's the initial question? Why should
actually, we haven't gotten to that. I was gonna at some point segue. What I wanted to do is kind of like take all of what you guys say and justifying it, and then being like, okay, now does that work for a software developer? But I think where we are now is just like, what does it mean to get tipped, and is it fair to expect? Well, help me kind of summarize what we've been discussing. But to me, it's like, what are the expectations of tipping when you go to just an average restaurant? Is that
Yeah.
okay? What did I don't know. I'm not very good at.
So wait, summarizing, what are the expectations?
Oh yeah, up to this point, that was one thing. Is like, is a waiter gonna assume you're gonna tip them, and then if you don't, how are you perceived? Let's start with that. I don't know.
How are you perceived if you do not tip?
Sure.
Generally, the waiter will not perceive you in the brightest light or like in the most positive light, because
that's kind of my
like, let's say Adam is in the 30% range,
right,
of like, there are people who just want to give you a great time, or like give you the best service they can from their own intrinsic motivation.
Sure.
But let's say there's 70%. So it's like there's a 70% chance that this person is expecting a tip or really hoping for one because they need it.
That's a 70%. I don't know why they need it, but their expectation is that they get tipped. So that's I don't know. I was just kind of just talking. I didn't really have a thesis or any like overlying thing yet. But I guess okay. So for Thomas, I don't know. It sounded like Thomas was eager to. I don't know if it's true, but it sounded like Thomas was eager just to say something. So I'll kind of let them decide what they wanted to contribute.
Yeah. So Thomas, do you believe that tipping is necessary, and do you personally believe that, like, do you personally tip? Do you believe it's necessary? And if you were a worker in, the United States, would you expect a tip?
Hello.
Hey, Thomas.
Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Well, I grew up in Hong Kong, so
Right.
this whole tipping thing, I don't think it exists anywhere but North America.
That's what I suspected, but okay, carry on.
Yes. Yeah, so I remember I heard, I don't know, is Adam still here, but yeah, you mentioned about giving money to like a Chinese couple, of them being like just nice. Well, in our culture, if you just give us extra money, we're being seen as like prostitutes, you know?
Whoa.
It's kind of like that. Yeah. So that kind of explains why they didn't take the money. And I think even in Japan, if you just leave the change there and not take it, it's considered very rude.
Whoa.
So when I first came here and I knew that, oh, I have to tip, I'm like, what the fuck is it? Okay, first thing is that if you just go to like a, oh, am I allowed to swear?
Whoa, bleep
Okay.
it.
Okay, so first thing is when I went to just like a regular pharmacy and then I see a price tag of like, okay, it's supposed to be like $4.38. And I goes up to the cashier and then it's not 4.38. It's something more than that. I'm already like, okay, what is wrong with this country?
Is that,
Why
you
is
mean like with
something
tax?
that's yeah, with taxes,
Oh,
why
okay.
is it hidden? Why don't you include it in the price tag?
Yeah.
Because I think in all the countries that I've been to, I have been to, I mean, most of the continents, but Australia and South America.
I didn't know that.
I mean, everybody include like it's the final price tag is right there, and you just go up to the cashier and you just pay the exact amount.
Wow.
But it's not like that in America. I don't know why. And so that already pissed me out, pissed me off. And when I went to a restaurant and then they're like, oh, okay, so you must tip 10%. I'm like, why do I have to do that?
Oh, yeah.
And then I found out that it's because the government don't pay them enough. So they have, they have the population or just anybody coming into the country pay them back. I mean, in Hong Kong, we have tipping culture, but it's all included in the bill. Like 10% is minimum, and we call it service charge.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah. So everybody gets the same amount. Everybody, and then okay. So I do tip people, but it's not a lot because I can't justify it, and I don't know. I still pay them, but it's always just like $2 or $3. There's no percentage to it. And
it's always
I don't support the system. That's why I don't want to pay them too much. Yeah, this has to change.
That's fair. Okay.
But I worked in a sushi place illegally when I was studying here, and I remember the customers would tip you, but at the end of the day, the tips actually goes back to the boss, and then actually everybody gets like an equal amount. So it's not like, okay, this table tipped you like $6 and then another $6. So at the end of the day, you get 12. No, it's not like that. They kind of accumulate all the tips, and then like maybe 30% goes to the chef, and then 20% goes to the waitress, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if that's a little different. But yeah, I fucking hate that system, and America needs to change.
Okay. I'm glad you're passionate about it, because I'm trying to be a little neutral, but yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, America's
because
great, but just not in the system.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but it's good because I mean, I've only really experienced California. I would only really say realistically California, so that's why I want to be neutral, because I've only had that small sample. But that's good that you could kind of back me up with the global perspective. But okay, so I was gonna I had a couple things I wanted to ask. So you said if you add on top of a tip, or you add, let's just say in China, you said it was did you say it was rude to add a tip on top of your bill? Or was it rude to leave change?
It's okay. In Japan, it's rude to leave change.
Okay.
In Hong Kong, I'm not really sure about China because I haven't been there in a while. But
this is where you're talking about it was like prostitution, or the same as.
Oh yeah. It's just if you give tips, it's just you only give tips to like really, I don't know. In Hong Kong, we do have like, I don't know, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, people think you're the greatest. And then if you work in like just like labor jobs, minimum wage jobs, they kind of see you as like a low person, and those are the people that you typically tip. Yeah, but no, we don't really tip anybody.
Okay, so but I think you kind of said that, as there's like a power difference between the people who feel like they should tip, or I guess the customer tipping someone implies that they're on a higher status. Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's one of the reasons I think it's kind of weird. It's kind of self-serving, maybe not all the time, but there's a little bit of that component in tipping, is how I think of it. And again, I don't want to be a cynic, but like that's kind of what I think. And then same with like not same, but when you mention leaving coins on a table in Japan, that's kind of funny to me. But what if you just like accidentally leave your change? Now that's a misunderstanding there.
Well, I don't know, but they are the most polite people on earth, and they would kind of chase you down
Oh
just
my
to
God.
give you the coins.
Wow. Okay. That's kind of weird too. That's like
Yeah.
opposite of. I would rather have that than what America has. But anyway, so
Yeah.
okay.
In a sense, it just feels like they're begging for money, and I must give it to them.
Oh yeah. So that's
First,
I wanted to. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know Logan, you brought up how certain people have circumstances that they're in, and you were just speaking for the servers, the employees. So my rebuttal is, what about the people? What about the customers? What if their circumstances are worse even? And now you're not you. I'm not talking about you necessarily, but I mean, the waiters are kind of imposing. Yeah, to me, it's kind of like, which of us is in more need of money? And now you've kind of just like put two groups against each other implicitly. I don't know if it's that bad, but in a way, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I get that. Let me see. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
All right. Yeah, no, I get that too. Like, that's what I would personally actually feel like in the Domino's or like Pizza Hut like scenario is like, didn't you think about like the customer at all? Like, why are you feeling this way? How can you not have the empathy to understand that guy may have stiffed you because, whatever circumstances he has? One argument that a lot of them would make is, well, why did they have to get delivery? Like, seriously, like, that's kind of a luxury. And if you don't have the money for a delivery, then why are you ordering delivery? Why don't you just go like pick it up? It's an argument.
But we pay for delivery fee.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then that goes to, I think it goes to just like the wage.
It's corporate greed.
Yeah, it's just corporate greed.
That doesn't go to the driver. I mean, like directly to the.
Well, it doesn't go directly to you at like the end of the night. It goes I think it goes to the funding of the drivers all as a whole, probably.
Okay.
Just to give them enough money. And, the driver does get a gas allotment that probably goes partially to that.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably a large part of it is like making sure the drivers all get enough like gas. But yeah, it's, why doesn't the customer get considered? I think that's a fair question for sure.
Yeah, it is. And okay, so yeah, just to get somewhere, I'm just trying to kind of I don't want to be like just going in circles with it, but yeah, that's another thing that customers have to think about, which I think doesn't belong in going to a restaurant. Like the experience of going to a restaurant, I don't think a customer should have to be like, shouldn't have to ask, do I or the server deserve to keep this 15% or whatever. Like it shouldn't be a battle over 15% of some bill. But I think that's the thing. And sometimes I'll ask questions like that. And I don't want to. Yeah, I just want to go to a restaurant, get food, and get the heck out of there. I'll pay them whatever they want, but don't make me do this like game of, which is why I like having it built. It's like in the bill itself. It's like built in. I think that's fair. I don't care if they want to charge like 15%. just tell me and I'll do it. But I don't want to play this game.
Yeah, it is an annoying game for sure.
Okay, so that's
It's funny to imagine you saying, "Hey, have a seat.
oh yeah.
Let's talk.
I got
Should you get this 15% or should I get it? Because this is my set of circumstances, and you have like a list prepared and
yeah. And like
your responsibilities."
please make a case as to why you deserve 15% of my bill.
And have your lawyer with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just papers and calculators all over, yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Have some business to attend to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, so if I'm going to come up with some argument is I'm saying that the tipping thing just causes a lot of drama and a lot of unspoken game playing that I don't think belongs in the dining experience.
Yeah.
And some countries,
yeah, especially for like the analytical type, like you, like I can
Yeah.
tell, like it would, and myself at times, it's like, yeah, it's like this extra thing. And I think the way that I've dealt with it is just be like automatically give like $5. And that's kind of failing
yeah.
or like losing in a way.
Yeah.
It's like losing to that system and giving in and surrendering because it's like, yeah, if I give $5 every time, I won't get glared at. It's just going to be fine. If I always, and what I do is I expect as the customer to always give that.
Okay.
That's my own way of dealing with this flawed system because I don't like that game either. And I don't want to like give them nothing and get that, the consequences of that game where you feel like a jerk.
Well, that's okay. I heard Thomas wanted to say something, but I'm going to address this first. That's kind of your belief or that's your procedure, protocol, whatever. Yeah. And that doesn't always line up with the expectations of the server, which is why I think that I think that's better than not tipping, which is why I applaud that. But 5% could be considered low. I think that is considered low.
No, dollars.
Oh, $5? Okay.
Yeah, it's not a percentage. It's just usually like $5. Usually people are happy with $5. It's not like amazing and it's not like nothing.
Okay.
Unless it's a huge thing. I'm usually talking about like an individual meal. I'm not like treating an entire restaurant to something. Yeah. Like I'm just talking about my own personal meal. Usually a $5 tip is like a decent percentage.
Okay. Then I guess you'd have to ask, everybody, all the servers, if that's fair. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying you should, but that's where I'm overthinking it, overanalyzing. It's like, well, I've set on this thing, but I don't know if this is gonna work for everybody. Probably won't, but
I guess I know it as being a server who has served like, hundreds and hundreds of times. Like I know that $5 is generally a decent price.
Huh. That's fair. That makes sense. Okay, Thomas, I want to hear what you were going to say.
Oh, I was just
back
thinking,
like 2 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask you, like, you said you wish to be tipped as a software engineer, right? You're a software engineer, right?
Yes.
So, okay, if we're going to tip you, then how is that going to change, like, how you're going to work? Or, like, your working attitude, your working spirit, I don't know, motto?
Okay, yeah. So
and how much do you want us to tip you?
That's hard because I don't know. 15%. I don't know if that transfers to the whatever. But okay. So I was thinking about it, and we'll go to meetings a lot of the times. Like we'll have throughout the day just meetings, and now during the outbreak they're over the phone. So at least that kind of narrows it down just to how you act on a phone. But yeah, I'm usually kind of not really that talkative on the phone. I guess I could be, and I could just like a lot of times they'll say something wrong and I just don't correct them. I don't know, because like I don't really feel like I don't know. It's just what, and that's the thing. It's like, if I do correct them, they're not going to tip me for that. You know, that's not a tippable. There's no way where I could correct them and give them more than what they needed, more than what they've expected, and get a tip out of it. So that's one, I guess, example. Also, I think friendliness, because, well, okay, so yeah, going back to the waiters, I think it's usually based on like how friendly they are. I've heard that be kind of the criteria. It's like, oh, this waiter was really nice, I'm going to give them a tip. That's how they start the sentence, is this waiter was nice, or this waiter was friendly. Is that like a reasonable premise?
Yeah, I would say that's a lot of people would award a tip based on that kind of metric, I guess.
Okay. So if that's the case, then going to, the software developer in a meeting, that's one way they could get tipped, I guess, is how friendly you are, how nice you are in the meeting.
Well, in the meeting, okay.
Yeah, and so someone who's should not get paid, should not get tipped, but not be penalized, and not not have less pay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Because that's how it works in the restaurant. Yeah. If you're a jerk, well, I don't know. You could lose your job too if you're being a jerk. But if you're just like an expressionless person at a restaurant, you're not going to get fired. You won't get tipped. But, well, I just think it's weird if I just am not friendly in a meeting at work. Or just someone motionless.
Yeah, that kind of seems like a problem to start, like, tipping people in a meeting to like be like a more behaved individual.
Yeah. And unfortunately, yeah, I don't know how it works now, because I don't think I would, because I guess the other way of tipping would be like promotions. I think that's the equivalent of having like a salary job or something. But I'm finding that it's, at least with the companies, of the small number of people I've talked to, it's not as easy as like getting a promotion as you think. And it's just like a yearly thing. And you really have to do more than just being friendlier than you were the year before. It's not the only thing so we don't really have that, or anything like close to tipping is what I've kind of come to realize. But that'd be a good place to start. Dang. Just in meetings, or not even in meetings, but just in interactions with each other.
Do you have your the people who are in your meetings, do you happen to have their Venmo or PayPal?
Oh yeah.
You could start this trend on.
Oh yeah.
just randomly send someone like $5 and saying, like, for smiling during the meeting, or like,
oh yeah,
starting a really weird trend.
That sounds kind of fun. I might have
You totally could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's even. I don't know if there's some rule. I have to do some training, and you can't gift to coworkers like more than $10 or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's considered abuse, or I don't know the word. It's where you're trying to gain something from typically just like your subordinates, but maybe just your peers too. But yeah, I think there's some rule where you can't even tip each other. Well, you can't even give money to each other in the form of gifts. Officially, I'm sure you can.
Yeah. Just start creating corruption in your workplace.
Oh yeah.
Well, there probably is already corruption. I don't know.
I'll save that for another time. But okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Adam? Is Adam still here?
He said he had to take a call, but I guess I could let him speak for himself. But I don't think he's here to speak for himself. So.
On the chat.
Yeah, he was talking to me in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I'm really quiet. I'm really quiet because the clock is going off.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe not. I don't know
We'll
if
come
I
back
have.
in when he comes back in.
All right. All right. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much of a convincing argument as a software developer. That was what I picked because that's most personal to me. But how about like the cook, the chef, in the back of the restaurant?
That's what I was thinking too. I'm glad you brought it back because I was thinking of like kind of bringing it over there too. Yeah, like the chef is in the restaurant doing like really skilled labor. Serving is not necessarily like as skilled as like cooking, and I just know that just working at Texas Roadhouse and being on like the server track and seeing like the chefs, and it's like, man, these guys are really good at what they do and they make amazing food and they're not getting tipped. I wish I knew how much they were making. I feel like the chef,
They are getting tipped.
they do get tipped?
They do get tips. My dad works as a chef. Yeah, he gets tips.
Really?
Oh yes,
Oh.
of course he does.
So like they'll take a small percentage or a percentage.
They take actually a larger percentage than service.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So how does the tipping work to him? Do customers go and give him a tip, or is it all the servers get tip and he gets
okay.
a portion?
I don't know how large corporates work, but I worked for my parents owned a restaurant back then, and I kind of knew how they operated. And he's currently working for another company right now. So back then, when they owned their own restaurant, customers would just tip him like personally, like here's a $100 bill, and then he'll just keep it because that's his. And currently, with his like the company that he's working for, they kind of just gather the tip, and then they set up a distribute. They'd be like, okay, maybe like 50% goes to the chef, and then 30 goes to service, 20 goes to buses or something.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be like that.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. So, but I don't know. Okay, and you're saying that's just what you've seen? That may not necessarily be everywhere.
For like locally owned businesses, yeah. So
okay.
far, yeah. I mean, I've worked for like 3 restaurants my own, and I saw their company or the restaurant, and also how they worked.
Okay, and it's similar.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for small businesses, it seems like that's kind of how it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really go to small businesses. I'm usually going to like a Denny's or something like that.
Don't
I don't
support them. Just don't even go there.
Yeah.
Make sure my money doesn't go to this man.
Oh no.
Yeah. Denny's are more like franchise, though, right?
Yeah, they're the. Yeah. So I don't know what their rules are with the tip, where the tip goes.
Hold on, I'll sign up to become a server, and I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. I might even just ask that. I'll add that to the list of things to talk about with my next server, next waiter.
Yeah.
Hey, where's my tip really going? I'm curious. But
I feel like, Andy, you should sometime tip a server who didn't serve you, but just because you think they didn't.
Oh yeah.
Say, hey, can you hand it to this guy? I think he had a bit more of a smile than you did.
I tell that to the server that served me. I'm not gonna tip you, but the guy over there.
Hand it to him for me.
Oh man.
I think this happened like one time ever when I was delivering, and I appreciated it. One of the customers was like, "Hey, take this $5 for you, and take this $5 for the guy who cooked it." And I brought it to them, and the like the people at the make table for the pizza. I was like, "This was from a customer for you."
That's cool. Wow.
That's nice.
That is nice of you and the other.
But I didn't have to do that. But morally, I felt I should for sure.
Do the chefs at your pizza place get paid more?
No, they don't.
Same thing?
That's what's kind of like that's why I started having these thoughts at Pizza Hut, because it's like, okay, we're all getting minimum wage. The manager gets a bit more, than minimum wage. But if you're driving, then you're getting maybe an extra $10 an hour. Sometimes, usually like an extra 10. So sometimes it's more than like the manager. But the
Oh,
people
okay.
who are just inside making minimum wage, like it's like, dang, I would always feel for them. Like, man, they're doing harder work, and I am getting paid more just because I'm driving my car. I guess that's kind of an expense, like you're driving your own car. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
just felt like my job was very easy because I'm like listening to music while they're like suffering inside, like trying to make sure the place doesn't burn down. So yeah, that's kind of where the flaws started to become apparent to
Oh, man.
me.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're like observant of all that, not just complaining
Yeah,
or going along with it. Even, I mean, like drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, of it.
yeah,
Like if you ask questions and compare and all that, that's good.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't really know what to do about it. Kind of what I've been doing is I just don't go to restaurants where they tip, so I don't have to even worry about it.
You just avoid it completely.
Yeah. And it works. I don't have to ask these questions anymore. Or I'll just cook for myself, which was working pretty well before
That's not
quarantine.
bad, yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win, I guess.
Yeah, I think I gotta start making better stuff for myself.
Oh, food-wise, cooking?
Yeah, I think that's just something I need need in my life, and maybe that would, yeah, replace eating out. That would be really nice if I could do that well and efficiently and quickly and make food that's like better than the food you get when you're eating out.
I like
Oh, yeah.
how
That'd be cool.
you're trying to eat healthier just because you don't want to tip.
Yeah. The incentive to eat healthy is to avoid tipping. That's that's the way to do it.
Oh, okay.
Would you ever tip the checker at a grocery store, Andy?
I wouldn't, just because I know that's like not normal.
Yeah.
But in principle, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I
If
feel like the
they,
bagger needs more tip than the checker.
The
Like,
bagger?
yeah.
oh yeah, I've seen some good baggers.
Yeah.
I've seen some good anythings. Like, let's see. Yeah, cashiers, there are some really like standout ones that I
Yeah.
wanted to tip, but I didn't have like, it wasn't as easy to, it's not in the transaction, you know? It's not like they
Yeah.
say, oh, do you want to add a tip? Or at like a drive-through or something. They don't, that's not part of that either. So you just, I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
there's like
true.
a place to just kind of fit it in without it being kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I just have to not think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say, I don't know. Well, Thomas, I don't know what you're kind of doing. I guess, could I talk about like what, let's just say you're doing your job and then someone just gives you a tip at the end of your experience. I don't know if that actually would be.
I mean, it happened to me actually.
Oh, okay.
I was actually working for a church. Not working because at that time I didn't have my green card. So I was playing services for every like Sunday worship. What is it called? It's just a service. And so instead of just like putting me on payroll, they actually just pay me in tips. So people
Oh,
would
yeah.
come in and just pay me in cash. It felt weird. I also got gift cards sometimes. Like,
cards.
yeah, like
Oh,
$50, Costco. It's pretty nice. Well, I teach piano. It's kind of weird as a teacher to receive tips, though I have. Actually, for with the current like pandemic, some of my classes got canceled because some of them are like, you know, they're a little older. So a lady just, you know, she gave me like a fund just to say like, okay, I
Whoa.
can't take any lessons, right? It's quite a large sum of money, She's like, this hopefully can pay your rent and everything. And
Ah,
I don't know, it just felt like, wow, I just earned a sugar mama somewhere. And it felt weird.
huh.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe it's just cultural difference, but when somebody give me money, it just felt like, why are you buying me all of a sudden? Like, am I above you or
Yeah.
below you?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I said that
Yeah.
earlier and kind of going against my own word. But yeah, that's like part of it. I don't know. I wonder
Yeah.
if there's any kind of culture that could have happened where that's like kind of okay, that's acceptable. I'm saying could have happened because I don't know if it exists anywhere today, but
Hmm. Yeah. I'm not
so
sure.
well, yeah, because okay, then that just kind of raises the question of how do you appropriately show someone gratuity? Is that the
I
word?
was thinking like, why don't we just give out stickers? Like,
Stickers.
you're
Gold
a great
stars.
person. Here's a star sticker for
So,
you.
do we have like a nationally standardized sticker system of like
That's like,
star is the best?
Why not?
then they
I like
don't.
it.
Do you exchange them for anything, or they're just like
You get a
trophies?
bigger star.
Oh, okay. Oh, kind of like because I was gonna say that's what money is, but if you can't exchange it again later, and it's just like a trophy, that'd be pretty cool, or like a
Yeah.
medallion or something.
But like, since when do we need reward for doing something good? Right?
Yeah. That's true.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, shit, it's getting deep.
Oh,
Well,
that's good.
I think you need it sometimes. Like positive reinforcement is a thing that seems to work for people, right?
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know. Maybe if we never introduced that as a concept, we wouldn't have to worry about it. So,
I mean, honestly, like maybe as a pizza deliverer, would you feel happier if somebody gave you maybe like a $10 tip or a very sincere thank you card?
Ah. Yeah, that's a good question. Um, personally, I think I would probably feel like pretty happy with the card. Like, cause yeah, if you're saying if it was like really sincere, and I would be down with that kind of thing. I think I've even gotten one of those
oh,
from
huh.
like a little kid that was just really excited to get his pizza. Yeah.
So they placed the order and they told the kid, and within the time it took for you to get there, he made a card for you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's so
Whoa.
sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet, and I was really happy. Um, I think
Wow.
I was
Okay.
so happy though because it happened once out of like 5 years. So like
Oh yeah.
then that makes me think. So yeah, what if every single person gave me a sincere thank you card? Then I might start wanting $10. Honestly,
Oh yeah. Huh.
yeah,
Oh man. Now that's the thing about where your expectations are, where they've become
yeah,
as a result of. Yeah. Well, okay, maybe not card. I think card was pretty good though. But how about something? I really think everybody's different, but one of the main ones I think could be some kind of like connection with a customer. I always hear about
Mhm.
like you open up like a mail store or like a laundry store, and then you make friends with customers, and that's like seems to be their reward. It's like, oh hey, it's Johnny. Hi the kids, kind of thing. But
Hmm.
to me, that
Yeah.
that might replace. I don't know. What are you gonna say?
No, that's an interesting like thought. Just that small town vibe. What you said makes me think of like a small town, like
Yeah.
where people know each other, or like at least maybe not a small town, but just a mom and pop store, small, where people know their names and people actually care about each other. That would probably be better, honestly. Yeah.
I I would think so. But again, I think everybody's different. I would bet there are people, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but people who just are in the business to make as much money as they can and don't care about the connections they make. So that's why you can't just say everybody has to do this way or the other. I think that's why we can't take away tipping, is because some people are committed to the way it is now. And that's how they're going to maximize. If they're the kind of person that tries to make as much money as they can, then that's one way for them to maximize it.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. This is my Uncle Tim. I just wanted to get his input on some of these things. So, Uncle Tim, what are your tipping practices and beliefs?
So my tipping practices and beliefs probably are within the norms, I guess. The higher percentage what is normal these days. I can't even remember. 10%, 15%. I usually tip 20% or 25%. I've actually even tipped more. I've tipped more than the cost of the meal if I really enjoyed it. My practices, or let me see. Yeah, so that's it. I think I just go for the high side tipping for the most part, because I kind of think that the people that are working in these restaurant situations generally need a little extra help, and I don't think they get paid well enough, and that's why they need to be tipped. So that's what I do.
And how do you perceive, or how do you think that people generally perceive people who do not tip in American culture, particularly?
Well, that's a funny thing. I think that they're perceived very badly in America, actually. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories, and I've actually haven't seen any, but I've heard stories of people that didn't tip, and then or that they've tipped too little, and then the server comes running out after them and gives them their tip back and says, obviously, you need this more than I do, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So people that don't tip, and our culture is that you tip, whether we like it or not. That is our culture. I guess I can't help but to think they're a little cheap, and I don't like to judge people, but you walk into a restaurant and you're going to have an experience. The expectation is you're going to tip. And if you're not tipping and you're making your stand there, to be honest, I can't really get behind it, because you're I don't know. I see it as cheap.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, let's see. So, would it be fair for like a salaried employee to earn tips too? Like, for example, a software engineer, and then like why not? Like, why don't we tip them, whereas we tip like a server in a restaurant, for example?
Well, I think it is a good question. And as my nephew, you know that I think a lot of problems have their roots in this whole concept of corporate greed. To answer the question a little bit wider, no, I don't think software engineers should have tips, or any other salaried employees. Typically, they are doing much better in terms of the salary that they're making. The folks that are working at a restaurant or that are waiting tables typically are getting paid even less than minimum wage, with the expectation that you're going to be tipped well. So the reason I say there's a corporate greed issue is that the restaurant owners get to sort of chisel their way out of that. They go, oh, I can get these people for, $1.50 an hour. They're going to get, $50 to $100 a night tips. Well, I don't think that's guaranteed, and I don't think that's quite right. I honestly think that if we had it set up right, we'd be like some of the other countries in the world, and you wouldn't even need tipping. Everybody just gets paid what they're worth. And that would require the restaurants to pay their people more money. Now, a salaried employee, like somebody in a software engineer, most of them are making six-figure salaries. I don't think they need a tip, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so how would you say, like, these people, how would you determine the worth of these people? Like, ideally, how should a server be paid versus, like, a software engineer, such that, servers would not require tips?
Well, that might even get back into a bigger discussion about, say, minimum wage. when minimum wage first came out. I think it came out in the 70s. And the idea was that a family of two, a husband and a wife, a married couple and a couple of children could live off of minimum wage. I believe that was the equation. It was certainly more than what we look at minimum wage today.
Yeah.
Right. So that was maybe easier to gauge back in the 70s or 80s, because you could take somebody without an education and they're still going to get minimum wage. So that was sort of the default value of labor at the time. The problem is minimum wage is stagnated for years and years and years, while the economy has gone up and up and up. So it doesn't really work like that. So to determine the worth of somebody now, as compared to a software engineer is a little bit easier, because you go to school, you get a degree, you start to work into a more narrow and narrow field given your skill set and your abilities. And as you increase your skill set and your abilities, you essentially increase your self-worth in terms of what you can barter your time and energy for with corporations, if you will. I think that the value that we've placed on, people, the individual minimum wage, is just abysmally low these days. I think there's a real disrespect for, the human labor in general. I think people that are working for minimum wage actually, in many ways, get looked down upon. Yet we still need them to do all of that work. So I would, the way that I would do it, and maybe the way the world would do it, is very different. I would develop somebody, what I think is the value in somebody with them together, in terms of, what do they think their time's worth? What do I think their time's worth? I think between the two of us, we would find the spot that meets what they need, and it would meet what I need as an employer. Can you do it that way with everybody? I don't know. And should you? I mean, you got to pick some standards. Probably when you look at today, everybody's out there arguing for $15 an hour minimum wage or something along those lines. If I had a company and I had the ability to pay people, I would just probably start out at, $20 an hour over minimum wage, or $25 an hour, something like that. And then I would have probably higher expectations in terms of, what I need done around the place, how responsive I would hope they are. And I think that more and more companies would find that if they just started paying people a little better, taking care of them a little better, it would really be to their benefit. Those people would turn around and take care of your business almost as though it were their own. But we have such a division between business owners and business workers, the laborers these days. It's a wide divide, almost as wide as the Democrats and the Republicans these days. So, straight off topic, here we go.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I mean, why do you suppose tipping exists in the first place for servers? I don't know. Is it like the corporation is trying to exploit the customer to almost have the customer pay the server what they should be generating themselves?
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis right there. I think that fits, right? The restaurant owner, they know that there's a tipping culture. They know that they can pay people less. They know that, a lot of people will do whatever they can to get some work. So they're going to have, a pool of people that they can fish from to get them in there to work for a little amount of money, and with the expectation that their tips will be there. And you're right. That puts the onus back onto the customer to essentially pay the server a part of their wage. It does seem off kilter to me. I can't say for sure, but I was actually talking to one of my other nephews. He's got his podcast, and he said the issue and the topic of tipping came up. And according to their research, tipping started out back in back in the days when you could have, I think it was indentured servants, and I don't think it was necessarily slaves, but indentured servants. And I think at the time, if you were an indentured servant, there was, it was sort of like a contract. You were contracted, there was so much that you had to do for so long. You were essentially, I believe, you were paying off a debt. So, it was like whatever it was, 8-10 hours a day or however much work you had to do. And my understanding about tipping was that at that point, if the master of the house, if you will, maybe that's what they referred to him back in the day, decided that they needed more work done, and they didn't have, that wasn't covered, they would poll their indentured servants to see who might like to do a little more work, and they would give them a tip to encourage them. They'd give them a tip to motivate them. They'd give them a little extra money. Hey, you want to make a little extra money? Here's a tip. I think that's the way tipping began. So for some people, that has a sour taste in their mouth. I think if you really dig down deep and look at tipping and how it got there, like so many other things that we just sort of accept in our society as that's just normal, it likely has somewhat of a dirty beginning, if you will, or a messy beginning, or something maybe a little bit ugly, But most people, that's just the way that we look at it. You grew up with that. You go into a restaurant, you have dinner. When I was growing up, I guess you were 10% was a really good tip back then. The average tip was 5 or 7%. 10% was a good tip. Now I think now the average is 15%, but and 20% is considered a good tip. But now you notice on even like your Grubhub apps and some of your other things, they ask you how much you want to tip. It used to stop at 20%, and then you could say put in a custom amount, and sometimes I'd go in over and put in a custom amount. But now you see they give you choices 25, 30%. So it looks like there might be a trend that there are a lot of higher tippers out there. There is one other thing I'd like to say about tipping, though, and this is when you walk into a big restaurant with a big group of people and they automatically apply a tip because you have a group of 12 or more. If I'm the person paying for that meal, and I've paid for more than a few meals where there's 12 or more, that's it. That's it. That's all you get. Whatever the tip is that you charged me, that's it. That's all you get. No more. No more, no less. And the reason for that is you've removed my freedom of choice, and that's your cost. Had you not removed my freedom of choice, you probably would have gotten almost twice the tip that you got. But you got what you got because you enforced it. When I walked, you enforced it because of your set of conditions. Whatever's happened before that requires, makes restaurants think they need to make that, they need to enforce that to get that tip with a bigger party. That's fine. And that's just maybe my little attitude about that. I might have a little attitude, but it irritates me. That's another thing that just irritates me. Because they're saying right up front, and I don't mind tipping, but what they're saying up front is there's a 15% tip. I don't mind tipping, and there's probably... Wow.
Tinkerbell.
Well...
That's all right.
Okay. All right, so, sorry about that. My little dog wanted to have something to say here. So I really don't mind tipping, and I don't mind tipping well. I just don't, there's something that really turns me off about having that defined for me and enforced for me when I walk in the door based on who and the number of people I'm walking in for. So when that happens, then I don't do anything beyond it. I look at that as just a pure transaction, like I just went and bought a mouse from Best Buy or something. $40, there you go. Boom, done.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, man, thank you so much for joining this podcast, Uncle Tim.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. This was my first podcast experience.
We'd definitely like to have you on more if you're willing. You can always hop in.
Well, maybe you want to see how people listen to this. Maybe they'd be like, this,
no, it's fine.
Tell them to go home.
We want to, our goal
Thanks,
is to dig deep into pretty much anything that comes up in your perspective. I know my friends Adam and Andy they would just be all ears and they would love it. So, yeah, we'd definitely love it if you would ever be interested?
I am, and I'm in.
All right, cool. Yeah. Yeah, generally, I think we've talked about this almost enough. Like,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, this is the whole topic of like tipping. I think it's a weird system. That's just like the end thought that I have. It's like a weird system. I feel like I could almost imagine how it began, but now it's not what it should have been. Like, if I was to imagine like the beginning of tipping, I would imagine it's just like a little extra support for someone. Like, if I think about someone starting down their path, they don't have much, and maybe they were like making music or something, and someone gives them a tip. That's like a little bit of sign of like support. Like, I haven't even brought this up, but you and I started busking like many years ago, and then I kind of went on to busk a lot, just even alone, and just really get to know what that was like doing that a lot, because I just had a lot of fun with it, and I found out just doing it alone was I liked it in groups, but the amount of coordination was always like really hard, and so doing it alone was usually really easy because I just keep my trombone in my car, and if I had time, I would set up and start busking, and that's another scenario where people like tip you, and I started to see tipping in that situation as like someone is kind of giving you support in your path as like a musician, or it could be other things, but so I see it online now too. People will do like PayPal or like have a particular place where people could send money, or like Patreon, these different things where people can like support. I think the idea of that's not so bad for sure, but now where it's like, okay, it's expected that the server gets a tip, then it's just kind of flawed.
But if you think about it, musicians, they're skilled workers, whereas you don't really have to learn how to become a deliverer, right?
Not really. Yeah, it's
And
pretty easy.
yeah, like you're out busking, nobody's really paying you to do that,
That's true.
and you get salary from just driving your car and putting the pizza down.
True.
Yeah.
I think we can't compare these two, type of jobs.
Oh man,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Music, it's just arts. It's just hard to. It's not on the same ground.
Yeah.
So
I just don't even. I don't even think like people in arts should be paid in like money, because I don't know. They you cannot say like, okay, this piece of work equals $350. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
It's like a priceless.
I don't know. Like, why do you think? Yeah, this is fucking priceless to me. What are you talking about? $350?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you're right. That I think it's a little weird to compare the two. Now that I think about it, yeah.
Because you're not getting paid, or the waiters are getting paid already, and then on top of that, they get the tipping. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, but I guess I was only saying that because I was thinking like where tipping began. Maybe it was just a show of support.
Oh, okay.
Like, hey,
Maybe they forgot to buy their star stickers. They're like, okay, here's the money. Go buy your own.
It's funny, that idea makes me think of like America's Got Talent, like the golden buzzer. I don't know. Are you familiar with that, Andy?
No.
America's Got Talent. It's like got Simon Cowell.
I'm familiar with the show, but that's the one with the X's, right?
I think, yeah.
Oh, so they added what's the golden buzzer?
So it's like, it's kind of arbitrary, it seems, but it's like if a performance is like really moving, it seems that the host of the show can go onto like the judge panel and he hits a button and it's called the golden buzzer. So confetti just comes out and they play like emotional music and everybody gets all excited. But I'm just thinking like, is that it? Like, I bet they're not getting any extra money or something. Like it's really just a golden buzzer with confetti and extra,
I get the
like
fame.
extra applause. Yeah, probably fame. Yeah, because typically those are saved to be like some of the best performances.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm just thinking like I don't know. I don't know if they get any extra thing for that, but it's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
star thing. Like, yeah, you get a star. Good for
Oh,
you.
so it could, that too could have like its meaning lost or devalued. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if there's.
Yeah.
It makes sense that we choose money, I think, because that's just standard. You know, everybody could use it. Everybody knows how to use it. But
Yeah.
it seems a little bit, to me, just a little bit synthetic to be using that as a reward. But again, that's
Yeah.
maybe just a personal thing. I might be different than everyone else.
Yeah.
But
So apparently we have Adam back, and Adam, this is my friend Thomas.
Hi, Adam.
Hey Thomas,
This
what's up?
Thomas Woodry. Yeah.
Oh, well, how are you?
Good, it's nice to meet you. How are you enjoying your time
You
around the
too.
bonfire?
It's kind of cold. I feel like I need
Yes.
a little more.
Oh
wood.
yeah. I'll chop up some more
Thomas
firewood
has-
for that. Hey, it's good to see you on the show, Thomas. I'm glad you made it. We're hoping to get you on one of these days, and it's good to see you're finally here.
Yeah.
So welcome.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Adam, do you have any questions for Thomas? I wonder, like, I just know you've had a thought in the past, and you're like, man, I wish Thomas was here to talk about this. I don't know. I don't know if it's like on your head. We were talking about like travel, and you had your input because you've been like traveling. I think
I
maybe
vaguely
about, like,
remember. Yeah.
culture.
Keep going. You're
Yeah,
slowly
like,
jogging my
travel
memory.
and culture, and what else? Like how different each culture is in the places you've traveled to. Because I have very limited experience in travel. No experience in international travel, unfortunately. Which you and Thomas have some experience for sure.
Yeah,
But
I can't remember what my.
I don't know. We can get into it.
Another
later,
time,
too.
another time. It might come to me later too. But yeah, thanks for, like putting that out there so I can let my mind, let that rattle around in my head a little bit to try and remember what my original question was. And yeah, I'll bring it up later if I remember it.
Yeah. Well, hey, why don't we get into another one of these topic ideas if you guys are down?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I want to choose this one.
Yeah, choose it.
I was curious. I know this is two for Andy, but I was curious about what Andy meant by frustration / tolerance about interactions. I think we may have been talking about this a little bit last time.
Yeah, that was actually the first topic we talked about in the beginning. So I think that was what we opened with last time.
Well, we talked about frustration, but what did you mean? Because we wrote this, I thought, at the end of the episode.
So
this particular topic of frustration and tolerance about interactions, and I think you were talking about like sometimes you might not have the patience to entertain a conversation that doesn't interest you. Was it like that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, that was more of the direction. So last time we talked about just, I think, dealing with frustration in general. I don't remember I don't recall the direction it ended up being.
Well, that's when we ended up talking about grace and mercy and forgiveness.
Yeah, that was a good talk.
Yeah.
And so that was more, I don't know what that was. It wasn't quite what I was originally getting at, but I'm glad Logan is interested in what I was originally going to talk about. But yeah, so that was just my chance. I don't know. I kind of feel a little selfish sometimes because a lot of these are like about me, and it almost sounds like
you have
okay. I think
you have good interesting thoughts.
Yeah, maybe I'm the least sure about how to act. But anyway, with like Yeah, so this had to do with me personally. I feel like I have smaller tolerance than most people when it comes to social interactions. And it's kind of the phrase, something minds talk about people, something minds talk about events.
Oh, that's a
That thing?
Eleanor Roosevelt quote. It's poor
Yeah.
minds discuss people, average minds discuss or hold on, let me back up. Poor
Okay.
minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, great minds discuss ideas.
All right, yeah.
Eleanor
So that,
Roosevelt.
thank you, Adam. It's kind of that, but gone wrong. And by that, I mean, like, I just take it too far and I'm stuck thinking I want to be, or at least thinking I am, the great mind category of that. So with that, I think, like, I don't know, like, I'll find a lot of times too, it's just I'll get into a conversation and it ends up going into like news or politics or something that, for me, that's just not something I'm interested in. And I think like a lot of other people would stick with it and find something interesting to like attach to. But I just can't do that. I don't know why. I would say that's very difficult for me. And I'm wondering, okay, so does anybody have any, well, I think, yeah, everyone here minus me is pretty good at being able to do that. So can anyone offer any suggestions?
Wait, are you
Someone who struggles
are you
with
saying you're good at being able to tolerate those conversations, or
I'm saying I'm bad at tolerating such conversations.
and
Or I don't know how to, I should say.
what is it
But Andy,
specifically that you don't tolerate?
I don't want to say that I don't tolerate. It's that I don't know about tolerance, but it's enduring. That sounds even worse. Well, I'll give you an example. So let's say we're talking about, I don't know, president or like politics or something. And I just have no investment in politics. So it's something that I don't have any investment in, but it's a pretty big deal. I don't know how to invest myself, even just quickly, like within that conversation, enough to a point where I can like contribute to that conversation. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. And so, yeah, Adam, Andy earlier was suggesting that we are better at this, and I'm not gonna admit that I am, but I might appear to be.
Oh, okay.
And maybe we can divulge or dig into that.
You're saying that
maybe not
we're
better, but-
naturally good at discussing ideas
I think
rather than like people or events.
not necessarily, but you seem to, even just putting on that face of being able to, Logan, I think you seem to be able to, you seem to be more familiar with strategies of how to do that. How to appear to do that,
okay, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I'm still a little lost. How to
Let me try.
tolerate
Can I try
people?
to read
Sure,
it?
yeah,
How
go
to,
ahead.
yeah, Logan.
All right. So Andy, the beginning of this is, it's founded upon that quote, ideas,
Right.
people, and so forth. Andy is kind of like, he would prefer to spend his time talking about ideas, at least ones that like stimulate his mind.
Mhm.
When conversations flow into, sorry about the clock. When conversations flow into the topic of like things that are not in that category of ideas, like they might just be politics that he doesn't have any interest in, or anything, or maybe just like celebrities or just kind of regular annoying chit chat.
Yeah.
Andy has a hard time tolerating that, and he's not able to like participate in that conversation, so he kind of just disengages,
Right.
I think is what he's suggesting. And he's wondering how we are able to like get through a conversation that we're not really stimulated by, and just for like the social purpose of that. And I'm not gonna say like I'm amazing at that, but Andy is saying that I might be better at putting on a face or like at least acting like I'm interested, and you as well. But you might actually be interested. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a
Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for
Very
clarifying
articulate.
that for me, Logan.
And I just want to say it's
Cool.
not so much of a. I'm more asking internally how you tolerate or strategies for tolerating that kind of situation, and I guess in physical, external ways of doing it. But I feel like most of that is internal, is mental. So that's more the question I'm asking.
I think for me, one strategy I use when I'm talking to people, no matter what the topic is it's really easy to continue a conversation where you cannot contribute because you don't know anything about that specific topic or concept, just purely by continuing to ask questions. And whether it's just a really like petty topic, like I don't know, something that doesn't take a high level of stimulus in your brain to comprehend or discuss, or something that's very high level. Whether you know a lot about it or not, it's very easy to keep the conversation going by just asking, like waiting for people to say things first and then asking questions about what they just said for more like clarifying or for more clarification. And
Okay.
I think
So you're trying to learn from that.
asking people questions gives them a platform to discuss what they think and talk about themselves, and that's it puts that person in a position that allows them to do more of the talking and you more of the listening. And it's easier to talk about yourself and what you think, so the more you give people the opportunity to do that, the more they're willing to talk, and you get to just kind of hear them out and then continue asking questions until you reach a point where you can contribute something.
Oh, okay.
So then let me actually take on the role that you're describing and say, Adam, what is your actual goal in these conversations? Is it to derive internal pleasure, like from the stimulation, or is it to make the person feel like important or make them feel heard?
Right. And
or is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, it could even be a combination of those three factors. I think it's pretty easy to tell if you're in a social setting and you get in a conversation with someone. You could tell within the first couple seconds whether the topic you've reached is something that stimulates your brain or not. If it is something that stimulates your brain, then yeah, by all means, go ahead, carry on that topic and get really deep into it and share your opinion, share your thoughts, share your ideas, and a really great conversation could come out of that. If within those first couple seconds you're like, I don't know anything, I could even bring in an example. I was talking to someone yesterday who was mentioning a character from an anime movie by Studio Ghibli, I think, and I don't know anime at all whatsoever. Like, that is completely just off my radar. I don't think I've ever seen an anime show, or I think I've seen one Studio Ghibli film. So for everyone out there who's into anime, I'm a huge disgrace to all of you anime lovers out there, because I don't know. I cannot contribute to your guys' conversations. But like, I know that that's like a whole other culture, and it's a whole other like just genre of art and film that a huge significant amount of wonderful people are very much invested in and invest their time in. And so I like hearing people talk about their passions, and it's interesting to me when I find people who are interested in things for themselves that I just don't know anything about. And so when I'm in a situation like that, for example, this anime example, I was just asking questions about like what the film was, and yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Well, what was your question, Logan?
Well, my question was to Adam, like, what was your motivation then? Let's say in the actual circumstance in which you are not stimulated, is your goal to? You said it was a combination of all three.
Yeah,
like,
so in this case, it would be the second
But what if
one.
it's not gonna?
Go ahead, Logan.
It was what? Oh, okay. Like, what if you identify it as a situation that's not of any value to you, or or just any interest?
Right. And so, sorry, so that's where I was going with this. So for this example, when I was talking to someone who knew a lot more about anime than I did, and I couldn't contribute, carrying on the conversation was more about letting them feel heard and understood, and like making it sound like I'm interested in learning more about them. And I think whether you're the type of person who does care about the other person in that way, and like they want you to feel that you care about them, or you're just someone like, even though you could not care less, at least try to act like you care about what that other person says like matters. Like I think either way, just like if you realize within those first couple seconds of the conversation that this is something you can't contribute to and you are just naturally not interested in, I think at that point you make the conversation about them and just like hearing them out and learning more about them as a person, and just allowing them to feel respected in that, because they're talking about themselves and they're showing an interest that they have. And I don't know, for some people that could be vulnerable, and I think it's important to like understand how other people like to convey themselves and what they're interested in. And I love finding people that that are super into other interests that I just have no idea about at all. And so that gives me an opportunity to learn more about that subject that fascinates them, and in return that shows as well that like I care about them and I'm willing to hear what they have to say about that.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
that is interesting.
That is a strategy nonetheless to turn it around, turn the tables.
Yeah.
In a good way. I mean,
yes, in a definitely.
I don't really know what turning
way.
the tables means, but okay. So that's, to me, hearing that's kind of a selfless thing, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
I think good conversation is more about making the other person feel heard rather than you getting to talk.
Okay.
Listening is definitely a valuable
like,
skill to have. And people
for sure.
People think about listening as like just a passive thing that you do, but listening is actually a very active and engaging. Yeah.
Why is listening? So then, why is listening good skill?
I'm just saying, like, I'm saying good listening.
Yeah. Why is
skill?
Yeah, like critical listening, or being just a good listener. I feel like there's a better way to explain that. But
I think being a good listener shows others that you care about what they have to say.
Okay. What? I don't want to keep... Okay, because I want to say, like, why is that a good skill to... I want to see how far this goes.
Yes. So you're saying, like, why...
Well, we don't have to...
Why is it important that the person you're having a conversation with feels valued in the first place?
Well, okay, maybe that's not the thing I'm disagreeing with. My issue is that I feel like I could do that, but I don't just want to fake being interested in something. And I'm not saying you're faking it or anything, but for me, the way I would do that is to just fake it and be like, oh, tell me about this thing that I don't care about. And that might make them feel better, but now I'm kind of just lying to them. And I'm this like imposter to them. I'd rather just not have them give them any false hope that I'm a good listener. So,
Well, I appreciate your honesty and your.
but that's the problem. Is like I don't know how. I don't think the problem is that I do that necessarily.
Yeah,
but it's that like I don't try to. Yeah,
I think the interesting thing about that is, this how do I say this? This occurrence is like something that really only happens, I don't know. Like this situation is definitely something that doesn't happen on a daily basis. Like you probably have to think in regards to like good listening and how you're perceived by other people in a social setting, in a conversation, like at just social gatherings and parties. And it's not like you're not being put in situations every single day where you have to just converse with random strangers that you meet at a social gathering, unless it's like you have a job that requires you to do that, which in that case I hope you're good at socializing with others. But I think like my point is, people tend to surround themselves with other people that are able to have conversations suitable to yourself and that have conversations that stimulate each other's brains. And that, I think that's like the whole purpose of friendship, is that you're finding like-minded people that feel and think in a very similar capacity that you do. And that's like, that's kind of where friends come from in the first place. And so this skill, like, we're naturally listening to each other and like, this is a very natural conversation. Like, this is not scripted. We're not pretending. You're not acting a certain way to like try and impress me or Logan. Like, this is a very natural conversation. And the reason that is just because we're friends. But I think there's kind of like there's a circular notion to that. Like, we're we have good conversations because we're friends, and we are also good friends because we're able to have good conversations and communicate. There's like a cyclical nature to that, and so we naturally just tend to stick around people that could sustain us like that, and think about ideas that stimulate us and have good conversations. And being like, having to pull out that skill of actively listening in a social setting and making other people feel valued, like that's something you don't need to do on a like everyday basis. And dang, I forgot where I was going with this. What was your original question?
I don't know if it was a question
or the previous thing you just said.
I feel like for me, it feels fake, is kind of what I was saying.
Oh, right. And so when that situation does occur, like, you don't need to feel like it doesn't have to be genuine, because that conversation, you're going to realize pretty soon, like, the conversation is probably going to end pretty soon. I'm going to talk to someone else, find someone else to chat with, and, repeat this whole process all over again. But you don't have to worry about being fake or not, because you're just meeting that person for the first time. And,
this happens with not just first time. This happens to me with people
like
I've
coworkers.
Yeah. So people, because I don't think everybody's like exempt from having a bland conversation.
Right.
Actually, you guys are pretty good about it, but I think for a lot of people, they're not like exempt. So even those situations, but I think especially when you're meeting someone new, it's important. It's like small talk, I guess.
Yeah, small talk. I was going somewhere.
Oh no!
With what I was saying earlier, and I lost it. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's maybe it's getting to that point.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, if you think about it.
Every podcast around like this time, I'd start to lose it.
Okay. Well, if you think, if it comes up,
Yeah.
just interrupt. You're okay. My permission to interrupt me. I don't know about Luke.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going somewhere with that. And
Oh, okay.
I'll if it comes
Well,
up, I'll
yeah,
bring
it should
back.
come back to you. I have a feeling it'll come back.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Then how can I? Or are you gonna say something, Logan?
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. So how does someone, if possible, stay in the conversation but also not feel fake about it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a
how
really
does
good
someone
question.
do that?
Oh yeah. So I could kind of offer what I thought would work, but seems to not work as much. So I don't know. I haven't really gotten the practices too much, but for me, if I go back to that quote, I always try to come back to the great mind aspect of it and try to talk about the ideas out of it. I would, not always, but I mean, when I got to try it, I would try to bring the conversation to that point, and it's hard. It's like kind of, there's always like some resistance, and it'd always go back to not where I'd want it to be. So that's where I'm a little bit frustrated. So that was my attempt. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but it's like an example I'll give you guys. Or if you can modify that somehow.
Sorry, can you explain that again?
Okay, so let's say I'm in a conversation that I'm not too invested in.
Yeah.
And on that spectrum of Eleanor Roosevelt stuff, it's like kind of more of the idea or the
People and
I'll
events.
just say it's like it's like not something that I usually deem important. But for me to like make the best out of the situation, I would try to inject some of these like critical thinking topics into the conversation, just so that we'd all have something that we could kind of have it. Yeah, but that would never really work for me, and maybe I don't know how to do that successfully. But I saw that as like something that would be a way for me to enjoy conversation a little bit more.
Yeah, so what I think about that is that I, first off, can very much relate. I've had so much experience with that. Those feelings of like, man, this is pretty shallow and I'm not interested. Even like a point where I kind of felt like I resented small talk.
Wow.
And I thought, man, like, why does that have to exist? Why can't I just skip past it? But I also realized, like, there are a lot of people who just don't care to go deep. Like, they don't want to. And that was kind of a thing that I had to realize at some point. Like, there are definitely people who just, they're perfectly happy not going really analytical. And I kind of realized at one point, it kind of dawned on me like, yeah, I'm actually kind of an analytical person. It's not just that, and that's just like how I am. Like, I was always told that too, like by my mom growing up. And I never really agreed with her. She's like, man, you have to analyze everything. Why do you do that? It's really annoying. And it's just like, I have to like pick it apart, or I have to get deeper about it. But yeah, a lot of people don't want to. And like admitting that, it's like, it helped me to just appreciate those who do, like you guys, and a lot of the friends that I have, and the ones, because that's a lot of why I kind of hang around someone's, because I want to have like stimulating conversation. That's not everybody's motivator though, like other people's motivator might just be having fun, or, well, in different ways. Like different people have fun in different ways, so it might be talking about things or events, people or events. But yeah, like your your ideas inject this kind of conversation into a shallow one, and maybe it will become something that interests you.
Right.
And I think that's a good strategy. It's like,
Okay.
and I bet that will work sometimes. Like, I would bet you've even had some success with it. But it also, maybe it just, I don't know. I kind of want to hear what Adam has to say about this, but maybe it's like it's founded in some kind of selfishness where, and I don't mean that and to be harsh, but just like your desire is, I want something out of this. I want this to be interesting to me. Otherwise, it's a waste of my time. So, like, why not try to make the best of this? I don't know. And maybe that expectation leaves you hanging when it doesn't go in that way that you're hoping it will.
Yeah.
Because I know from experience that it doesn't always go that way. Sometimes it just stays shallow, and I'm like, dang, you know? Like, I can think of a few people just as an example. Just, I'm not going to say their names, but it's just like where I've tried on several occasions to like just open it up. Let's get like really deep about it. And I'll have all the patience in the world, and I'll keep trying. And they're just like, yeah, you know, I really like chocolate chip cookies, man. Or,
Yeah.
they're just like, you got to keep it on the surface, and
Yeah.
they're just not down. So anyway, what do you think, Adam, about what I said like a few seconds ago?
Yeah, one thing that resonated with me a lot with what you said was how there are just some people out there that they don't have an analytical mind and don't like to go deep, and they just think differently, and it doesn't take a lot for their brains to be content with the topic of the conversation. And yeah, like I reaffirm you in that, Logan. I definitely know and have met people that are just like that. Yeah, who just, that's not naturally where their conversations tend towards, and how their brain works and how their brain thinks. And so, and that happens. You run across those people all the time. And yeah, I think that's an interesting concept. And interestingly enough, that kind of goes back to our very, very first episode about flow state. And when we were talking about it then, we were talking about it in the context of like activities that people do like on their own that make them happy or give them that level of fulfillment or achievement. This kind of ties back to that, but instead of like a solo activity, it's more of like a social situation of like, some conversations put you in a flow state, and some conversations don't allow you to reach that point. And for some people, they could be like overstimulated by high level concepts and thinking more analytically and critically. And so that kind of ties into that flow state concept we were talking about earlier. But as far as how Andy's method, I can't really remember what you called it, but
Sure. Strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, I also agree with Logan. Like, that's not a bad idea to kind of shift the conversation in kind of more your way, where it's like more analytical and critical. And it definitely doesn't hurt to present high level, more like critical and analytical concepts to people in a conversation like that. Just because I think every like social situation requires like a little bit of give and take. And I think that's why that, like, being able to input some more critical and analytical thinking to those conversations is beneficial because like it's important for them to hear your thoughts and opinions just as well as it's important for you to hear their thoughts and opinions, and that kind of gives them the opportunity to kind of see if they take the opportunity to discuss their thoughts and opinions on a more analytical level and take that any further. So yeah, like I definitely don't think it hurts to like act that way or give the person you're conversing with that opportunity. But like Logan said, I do understand like there are definitely people out there who they don't think that way and they could not care less, and yeah, so that's interesting. I don't have like a perfect answer for that, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I like that you brought up the flow state. Or I'm thinking of the diagram that flow state's associated with. But
Right.
yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, because I think
boredom is actually...
there's some resemblance there.
I think so too. So that's...
Yeah, so I'll add some stuff.
all right.
Andy, so I'm talking a little softer because it's getting kind of late and with some other people in the house, but I can turn up the gain a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Andy started by asking, like, how do we seem as though we are interested, or like how do we get through these situations? And as someone in a similar space, I'll try to say like what I've done.
Okay.
But the thing is, my space isn't identical, but it's similar. It's like I'm always like looking for a good conversation to like, ponder for the next day or two, or just, be interested in. And those are not always available. And dang it, train of thought, having a hard time for some reason. Yeah, those are not always available. And when I get into conversations that just don't interest me, I don't think I'm like the best at handling it. I think I just, like I'm trying to think of like what exactly I do. I tend to just like show some interest out of like kindness and respect. And I think like one thing I'm thinking is lately I have been trying to go down the path that Adam I think is already further down, of like just try to make that person feel like heard and important by being able to speak their mind. Because I actually recently I listened to like an audiobook, and it was called How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is one of the most...
by Dale Carnegie?
Yeah, one of the most influential self-help books ever. Like the first self-help book, one of them. And they talk about that a lot. They talk about, like every single person wants to feel important. And sometimes they just don't even have people like to hear them out. So if you can be that person to them, that's not a bad thing. Like it's a selfless act, but it's also like good. So like what Adam did, like asking questions is really great, and it's in helping those people feel good. And like I do have friendships that I maintain that are not always deep conversations, but I do always try to like ask that person like, how is your life, and like follow up questions about whatever they might say. And I am interested, and I feel like I've gotten better at being like genuinely interested. So I think it's just a way that we might have to kind of grow, because like we have to decide, like we don't just want to be only associating with a very specific type of person. Like I don't want to be a lonely person. I've noticed that. I used to think I could just live life alone, it would be fine. And I still kind of think I could survive, but I think my will to live wouldn't last very long, to be honest. Like, what are you living for if there's no one in your life at all but you? It kind of seems like I just feel like my motivation to like get through the day would be decreasing.
Oh.
Sorry, this is kind of like stream of consciousness, but
No. I like it.
anyway, so that's once you kind of understand that that's like your motivation, like you want to not be alone, you want to have friends, then like, and I think that's a pretty like true thing. Like we want friends, like however they manifest, like just it kind of boils down for me to just trading and swapping like positive energy with other people. Like sometimes even a friend that might not give you super concentrated wisdom or whatever, they might give you some really good positive energy that makes you happy and like happy to be alive. Like, and you didn't even have like an amazing conversation. You just kind of shared a laugh or you just lived a moment together. It's very important to have friends. And, you know, I value my friends a lot. And I think these are some strategies that we need to start thinking about. So, yeah, I think it just goes back to we kind of need to start growing, and we need to, in those situations, like maybe just make the selfless decision to be like, you know what, I'm going to make this person feel heard and valued by just intently listening to them and, you know, giving them that. It's like the human need to feel important. He says it in the book, like every single person needs to feel important. It's just this human thing about us. It's like why people will accumulate wealth beyond what they need, and it's like why people will, you know, try to create artwork that will last beyond their lifetime. You know, creating like a symphony that will outlive them. It's like this need to feel important, which is like is only human. It's not like dogs don't do that. It's just a thing we do. But on a microscopic level, you can help somebody with that need by just listening to them and helping them to feel heard. And I realize it too, like, you know, having you guys and my other friends and my, and, you know, Thomas, to be able to share like conversations with, and like I feel like I matter a little bit when I can actually speak my mind. If I just have to keep it on all the time, I definitely do feel like kind of worthless at times. Anyway, that's kind of like some of my thoughts.
A lot of good thoughts in there.
Thank you.
That was a lot of good thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
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 Andy
I am
said
like
it first.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
really
Well,
good. Yeah, how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie. That's awesome that you brought that up. I think everyone who's just interested in people and how people work needs to read that book for sure. I mean, anyone could benefit from reading that book. I
very much.
still
yeah.
have yet to read it, but I know the impact that it's had on so many people, and I know a lot
like,
about
yeah,
it.
If we're plugging this book, then I want to say that I was in a really like depressed place a while back, like a few months ago, and I felt very lonely. And loneliness was one thing, but I don't know. It kind of had to do with like my work environment and life not being what I wanted it. And when I listened to this book, it was like the first time I was starting to think positively in a long time, because I felt like I had control over my circumstances now. And like, you know, at this workplace where I felt like I had absolutely no emotional investment in any person at all. I felt like I do not care about a single soul, and not a single soul cares about me. Like I really felt that deeply, and it was not a good time. when I started listening to the book, I started to try to implement these ideas of like, yeah, how do I, I'm just going to talk to this person. And, he mentions in the book, remembering someone's name is like one of the most important things. And I'm like,
Wow.
I remember like 5% of my coworkers' names. Like, like he says, a name is like the most pleasant sound that anybody can hear, like is their own name. And
Oh, yeah.
so, just starting to implement these ideas and actually, showing interest in what they have to say and all that stuff, like it started to make me feel happier. I felt like I was actually building better relationships there. So good stuff. Yeah, definitely hard plug on that.
Wait, can you tell me the name of the book?
Yeah,
One
just
more time.
how to win friends and influence people.
All right. I'm just going to note these down.
Yeah, I listened to it on Audible. I mean, while I was like, just delivering. Please sponsor us, Audible. Thank you.
They give us free stuff. Well, okay.
It was
wow.
written so long ago too. You can look at
Oh,
that,
yeah.
Andy. You see how long ago it was written? What year?
Oh, I just wrote it down. I didn't look it up.
Oh,
Yeah, let me just copy
I
it.
believe it's a 1800s book. Or no, it's
Mm-mm.
not that
No.
old. It's early 1936.
1936.
1936.
Yeah, 1936.
Yeah.
So pre-World War II.
Yeah, and it has like lasted a long time and influenced a lot of people and friends.
Yeah. All right, I'll have to check it out after I read another book Adam told me to get. I got that book.
Oh,
Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah, that one.
Heck yeah, man, get
Oh.
ready. The way you view finances is about to change. Your life is about
Maybe.
to change.
Kind of want to read this other one first. But
They're both very important.
I'll read one page of each and then just alternate.
No, definitely do not do that. No, yeah, read whatever order you want to read them in is fine by me, but definitely read both.
Well, I'm not a dad yet, so I'll read. Yeah, just kidding. Yeah. Okay, so, well, yeah, I'm hearing Logan go through all that. It's actually made me ask a pretty valuable question, and it's what do I want to get out of communication, or at least interactions.
yeah.
And I don't think anyone can really answer that to 100%, but I'm noticing that a lot of the motivation for me is to just to like get stuff done, or just to like create something or invent something. So
Okay. Yeah. Create.
yeah, and when I'm not doing that, it just feels uncomfortable. So that's when I just tune out of the conversation. It's like, this isn't gonna produce anything tangible, so what's the point?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because I'm identifying that as a problem. I don't even think I would say objectively a problem, but subjectively I'll say that's just a problem for me. And I'll see
Yeah.
what this book has to say with it. But yeah, I think it's not about that. And this book is just the title of this book is kind of making me think it's definitely not about that. But okay.
Yeah. I mean, so your biggest motivation is to create. That's what you're saying, kind of?
Let's say that, yeah, just tentatively. I'm sure I could think about it more, but let's just go with that for now.
Yeah, I think just
Yeah.
naturally you are a very like creative person. You are a very productive person. You definitely like working on your own little projects. I know you work a lot in Unity and programming related ventures, and yeah, you are just seeing that. I could tell you're definitely a producer, and you like being productive and being at work, and I wonder if maybe some of the disconnect might come from the fact that you are a producer in a society that is filled with consumers.
Oh man, that kind of makes it. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. No, that makes sense, and I'm kind of agreeing with you.
And so, yeah, I that's not like my answer, but that is an idea that crossed my mind. And
So yeah, maybe I'm trying to decide if might as well be on a couch in like some office talking about all these things. But yeah, I'm trying to decide if I should learn how to be like more consumer, or if because I kind of see it as like you could either be kind of what Adam's saying, you could be a very personable person, or you could be a jerk, and you could be a jerk and get a lot of stuff done, but you're still going to be perceived as a jerk. So I got to kind of like balance those two. I don't know how. I don't know how,
Okay.
Doc.
well,
Here's a weird question, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, just real quick, and then I'll let you have the platform.
Looks like Thomas is coming back in the air too.
Yeah, I'm excited
Yeah,
to
Thomas.
see what Thomas has to say. But just real quick, I just like one thing I think that is important. Like, yes, it is important to value others, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of fruit to gain from that. But also, I think Logan said it best earlier in another conversation, just about just trying to be yourself and never sell yourself short. Like, everyone has a different personality, and I think the reason I'm saying this is because earlier you had said like maybe you should try to learn how to be more of a consumer, and whatever that implies. And I don't think that it's about that, like changing yourself to fit the mold of another type of person you want to be, some other archetype, but like also give yourself grace and understand like you're, how do I put this? Like, you don't need to compromise your natural personality, your natural self-identity to appeal to other people, I guess. And everyone's different, and I think it certainly does help to understand that and not to sell yourself short in any way as well. And so there's definitely a balance. I would say there's a balance, and that's I feel like the reason this question is so hard to answer, and obviously we could talk about this concept for hours. I mean, people are to this day still like writing books about it and starting YouTube channels about it, of like how to be social or how to be popular, and just like very, very similar concepts to Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Win and Influence People. And people have been asking these questions for as long as humanity has been alive, and I just honestly, I believe that the reason it's so hard to come up with just a straight up answer for that is just because everyone is so unique and everyone is so different, and there's a balance between being yourself and not compromising your self-identity, your self-worth, self-value, and but also being within being yourself, being able to value others as well. And yeah.
So I have a question for Andy, and when I think about it, I don't know that this one will like highly appeal to you.
Oh no. Let me hear it.
Well, I just don't know if it will work on you the way it would on someone else, but it's like this concept of, let's say after you died, you could actually go up, like, and like attend your funeral from a third person perspective, and like, would you actually care like how many people showed up?
Oh yeah. Huh.
But I don't even want to like say that. Like, I know you would have a good turnout because you're a great guy, but I'm just
Oh
you're
yeah.
just speaking. Like,
Yeah.
would you care?
Would I care to see or care how many people?
Like, if it was definite that you would see it, like you're gonna die and like you're kind of forced to watch your own funeral, would you
Oh,
actually
okay.
care, like, the number or like who showed up and who didn't?
Yeah, I'd say at some level I would care. Are you saying
Yeah.
I would care more than I like? Does it change how I'm acting now?
Well, I kind of wanted to get into that, like,
Oh, okay.
to establish first that you would actually care. Yeah, because, like, I don't know, some people just get way too into certain things in life, and then they just, by the time they pass away, it's like nobody even cares, or like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, they put everything else before the people who may have mattered in their life, and then
Yeah.
you know, it's real that you can lose people, like if you weren't there for your family or something, or if you weren't there for your friends, or I guess it makes me think like it's important to kind of just have that selfless aspect of you that's kind of built up, and like, you know, there's the worker hat, but there's also just the kind person hat, or I don't know. This is all subjectively important to me, but it's not going to be for everyone. I don't know. What kind of thoughts does that get going in your head?
Yeah. Wow. Never really thought. Never really thought about that. That is kind of actually. I think like Christianity has a similar thing with judgment, but that might be different. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the idea of like kind of being able to look back at how you're remembered. I think I gotta say I would really be more interested in knowing my legacy than people who were. If I have a legacy, I'm not saying I'm building one up, but I mean, I already have one game published, and in a way, to me, publishing it was kind of like the death of that game being developed. But
Okay.
afterwards, I could go and watch it, see how well it's doing, and it is actually really enjoyable to go and see how it's doing, read the reviews occasionally, the ones that are nice. Not all of them are. Oh man, but that's kind of one of the most accomplished. That's a time that I've felt the most accomplished is looking back on that succeed. So that kind of makes me think it's not so much about relationships for me personally. But I don't know. I mean, death is something different. So that could be, I don't know. I don't even know if you can compare releasing a game to dying. But I'll say, having been through that, that has been one of the most like rewarding experiences.
Interesting.
So
it's almost, yeah, the legacy. It's like the mark that you leave. And it goes
Right.
back to that whole Dale Carnegie concept of like, we all have this like inherent need to be important.
Okay.
And that's the way that you get that. Like, it's all,
Yeah.
how we go about that is different.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like I need to emphasize that because
Yeah,
I
but
think
it's like,
some people can gain importance or the feeling of importance through friend groups or popularity
Yeah.
and whatnot. So
yeah,
that counts.
it's so subjective what we're talking about. Yeah. Man. Well, I have a question for Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas.
Thomas, I'm curious, just to kind of go back a little bit and ask Thomas, how do you get through a conversation that does not stimulate you, and like where you're just not interested in it? I'm wondering like how you cope with that, because that's the whole premise of this conversation that Andy began. He does not have the patience to. Well, sorry, he has a hard
That's
time
fine. You could say that.
getting through a conversation that he is not stimulated by. And I've witnessed this, to be honest.
Oh,
with
really?
some people. Yeah, I've witnessed it. I
Oh
think.
man.
You have a hard time hiding it, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, Thomas, how do you go about getting through such a conversation? Yeah, wait.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Thomas?
Hello.
There. Yeah. I think you can go up a little bit more.
I'll try to gain a bit more.
Oh, I think that's.
I'll play with it.
Okay. Well, I wasn't here for some of the conversations, but I heard. I don't want to hear my own voice, but I heard Adam's speech, and I agree with him. Like, you want to be a good listener. I think there's only two things that you could do: pretend to be you're listening, though some of the times I'm not even listening, and then just like grab onto like the last few words and just keep asking questions. And if you have the ability, just try to like crack it up. I mean, just like make it funny, and then hopefully you could change the topic. That's how I do it.
Okay. That still has the. So that to me has the issue of you're faking it to yourself, even like maybe the
Yeah.
other person
It's not
buys into
sincere.
it. But yeah, that's why I
mean,
don't
okay.
like. Okay.
As long as you have humor in it, I feel like the sincerity level just spikes up because it feels like, oh shit, you're contributing.
And
Yeah, it's okay.
I think one thing I'm realizing too is I think sometimes people forget, like, you don't have to be sincere in every single conversation you have with every single human being on the planet. Like,
Yeah, but why
I think, yeah, because that's not, we don't live in a perfect world. Like, in a perfect world, yes, we would be friends with every single person, and we would have the capacity to love every single person equally.
Okay, I'm not saying that.
But we don't live in a perfect world, and I think it's perfectly fine to say, I don't need to be friends with every single person on the planet. Like, I would love to. Honestly,
Yeah.
I would love to be friends with every single person on the planet. But because this is an imperfect and broken world, like, I know that that's just not going to happen. And it is okay to admit to yourself, I do not need to be friends with everyone. Like, and just there's going to be conversations where it, like, you don't need to be sincere. Like, it is perfectly okay to say, I don't need to be sincere in this conversation. And just out of respect for the other person, then yeah, go ahead, just fake your way through it. And, it might, like, that might not feel the best, that it doesn't feel sincere. But at least even through that, you're making an effort to listen to that other person and respect them. And like, it doesn't have to be sincere.
Fair enough. So, okay, what do you say to... Oh, did you want to interject?
Well,
there?
I was just going to say, like, I've kind of realized that what Adam is saying as well, and I also come from the desire of Andy, like the idealistic part of me. I grew up as a very idealistic person. Like, I should always be this optimally, so that's what I'm going to do. And at one point I thought, okay, telling the truth 100% of the time is optimal. And that's one of the first lessons. Well, that's one of the lessons I've been having in the last few years, is like, well, is that really? Like, if you tell the truth 100% of the time, there are times where you like incur, like, you experience like these conflicts, and sometimes you'll really rub someone the wrong way. And so I've come to accept, like, yeah, it's not that hard to just not tell the truth in that situation, because it's going to, like, maybe like offend that person, or it's going to like lead to a suboptimal outcome. So I'm not really necessarily going to lie, but often I'll withhold what I believe truly, because I just don't see the value in adding it, and just sometimes you have to tell like white lies here and there. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to think.
okay.
It's just like, yeah, I don't know. There are so many times where if you're 100% honest in all situations, like, you'll come off as a jerk, and that's another thing where it's like, what matters more? Like, do you actually care right now if you're right? Because sometimes, like, you'll be talking to someone and they're not even going to be convinced. I know at this age what it's kind of like when someone's not going to be convinced of something. So it's like, you keep arguing and you're not going to convince them. And, like, why not just let it go, and why not just maintain like a friendship, or like be more of a kind person and not be like a jerk? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking in a specific scenario that might not be apparent to anyone listening.
No, I'm following. I think what you're saying makes a
You're
lot
following
of
it?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm only bringing that up to say that, yeah, like, I also come from the perspective of always wanting to be genuine and authentic, but maybe there are ways that we have to kind of adapt to the world that we're in just to be like a citizen, and like, a member of society that just knows how to interact with other humans and be like kind and get your job done at the same time. And yeah, maybe that involves not, like what Adam said, like, decreasing your authenticity at times where it may not even matter. Like, what if you talk to some guy like one time ever? Like, here's an example of when I actually do it. Is like, I'm delivering a pizza. People are really into a sporting event, which tells you, just my phrasing there tells you how much I actually care. But, no one actually calls it a sporting event.
I would have called it. I don't know. I don't know what it's called.
I know,
What,
but you're like
sports
me,
show?
like, you go and you show up and you're like, oh, what kind of sporting event are you all watching right now? Like, they're not gonna. But I pretend like I care what team wins, because it's like they'll connect with you. But then I feel like a sociopath to an extent. It's like, I know that they think that I'll, be connecting with them, but I'm not actually. So that's a whole other ethical thing to think about and analyze. But anyway, the whole point I'm trying to say is, yeah, I agree with Adam, but, in moderation for sure. I don't do this very often at all, but I think he's right that you should take it back every now and then.
Oh, okay.
Cut back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a try. And I think I'll need to read or listen to that book and kind of reach out for expert opinion.
Yeah. What do you think, Thomas? About like what I was just saying? Because you had mentioned the idea of like, bringing up the last thing they said and getting to something interesting.
I'm getting tired. Sorry.
Oh no.
I don't know. I feel like you would never be able to find another Andy to talk to. So you kind of just,
Oh, no, is that
you know.
good or bad thing?
I mean, no one is ever gonna like exactly what you like and dislike
Okay.
exactly what you dislike. So you just
Oh,
have
I
to
see what
be
you're
a
saying now.
better puzzle piece, I guess. Just be adaptive, be flexible, be, I don't know, maybe you're just a little more open-minded.
Open-minded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
it's-
you know, not everything has to be important. Just sometimes just
Uh,
vibe with it, you know? Yeah, like,
I guess
oh
so.
shit.
I see that everybody is saying that, and I get it. I want to say I get it. I'm just saying that's difficult for me. I don't know how to not think. But okay, all right.
See how you can like just ease up the environment. I think Logan's really good at it, you know, just throwing some really random jokes all of a sudden.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know. He does it all the time.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah,
Logan is
yeah.
very good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I hear a lot of. I've been watching a lot of comedy, but that's kind of their thing is they could say whatever they want, and then you just punctuate it with a joke, and it's all fine. It's all neutral.
It requires a doctoral degree in comedy.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually
So-
very interested to see you read this book, Andy, and see what you glean
okay.
out of it. I'm curious to find what you learn and share your
Okay.
thoughts. So we'll have to return to this conversation again later in the future after you've read the book.
After
This
I
is-
did this, okay.
This is Andy pre-reading on Dale Carnegie.
Oh,
and we
yeah.
have to do another one of Andy post Dale Carnegie reading. So
Oh yeah. Okay.
that'll be another
Yeah.
podcast for a
Alright.
later date.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I'll have to go read that. I'll go find it on some podcast platform or audiobook platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy, I think you ever used Audible?
I had a free trial like a year ago or something, but I don't have it anymore. But I did use it to answer your question.
Oh, okay. I just remember there was a cool feature. I know this is weird to say live, but there's a cool feature where I could actually, if somebody had never used this feature before, I could send them a book that I have for free if they'd never received a free book.
Oh yeah.
So I could just gift it to you
Yeah.
as the one that I gift to you, and
one
you wouldn't even have to buy it.
Oh, that's cool.
I should open up another account.
Yeah.
Yeah. One for
That's how
each
Thomas
book.
does things.
Oh
Thomas
my gosh.
has like 4 different YouTube TV accounts with different cards. And exploits the trials.
Wow. Well, they haven't stopped her. So.
Yeah.
I mean him.
Him or
I think
can't
I think it's
assume
on
gender.
Apple Audiobooks.
Oh,
it's
it
just
is.
called Audiobooks. Yeah, so I'm just gonna. I have a Apple Music subscription, so maybe I could get it.
Oh, okay.
Or I don't know. I thought audiobooks are free, but they might not be. I doubt they're free. Never mind.
I think
What
if
was
you
it?
buy the ebook and then you might get a free audiobook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it worked like podcasts where you just pay the subscription and then everything. You just get access to everything.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'll go look later.
Well, we'll wait for your report and findings.
Oh, I'm not going to do it right now, so you'll have to wait longer than a couple minutes. Well, that's it for Around the Bonfire. I hope y'all enjoyed listening. This was a good time around the bonfire, joined by your hosts, Adam, Logan, Andy, and for the first time ever, featuring our special guest, Thomas.
And Uncle Tim.
So, yeah, I hope y'all had a wonderful time around the bonfire, and we look forward to having you again next week.